You made a video talking about the Tai Lopez issue. I think he raised money using what I would consider unethical marketing. So I want to give you a chance to explain yourself.
I remember this. Like, Tai was pitching everyone on buying dead companies. Radio Shack, freaking Bed Bath &
Pier 1 Imports.
They're already bankrupt. These companies already don't work.
Knowing all this, that's where I'm a little more critical of the Tai Lopez fund, because I don't think this is similar to, hey, this guy's a really successful guy. He raised some money and one of his funds went under. Yeah. I think this was a lot more devious.
You're going viral for like the Mayweather drama.
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually think Mayweather's going broke?
I know he is.
Spencer, Cornelia, welcome to the show, man.
I confronted you now because we have a little beef online.
Oh.
We do. About Tai Lopez, amongst other things.
I'll be the ref.
Yeah, the Bald Coast is the ref with everything else. So what do you want to know?
Well, you made a video talking about the Tai Lopez issue, and as I found out later, it was actually before the official complaint was filed. So I want to give you a chance to explain yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think the irony was I was on Brad Lee's show here in Vegas, and he randomly brought up Tai about I can't even remember now because it was like 9 months ago. And I was like, well, I mean, I've met him. I've had him on the show. Like, I don't really know much about what's going on, but if people lost money, like, everybody's responsible for freaking their own financial decisions. And then ironically, we filmed it maybe like a month before it released. By the time it released, like literally this whole thing with the SEC came out. And I was like, hey, Brad, you might want to let people know. And Brad's attitude is like, he don't give a crap about anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like people are going to think like this is a response to that, even though this was filmed before that.
Well, what didn't help is he doubled down and released a short that day, compiling what he was already talking about because the story came out and it got him pretty good views. And so that's why I interpreted it as, oh, he just talked about this because he wants to share. And I think what happened with the Tai Lopez story is you have two schools of thought. You have the entrepreneurs, the guys I featured in my video, including you. You generally have this personal responsibility that you invested in a thing, the investment went bad.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But then there's also another school of thought, which is Tai Lopez built up this brand off being a business expert, raised a bunch of money using his influence, and then the money goes away. And he lost, as of right now, we believe that he lost a lot, 100 million plus, which is not a good look.
Oh my gosh.
And so I think it's fair to criticize when you build up your entire brand off being an expert in something and then you lose the money. Where do you think the responsibility lies with the investor? And do you feel like they're victims in this?
Well, if he committed actual fraud and this SEC thing is, whatever it ends up becoming, then sure. Like if it's truly proven that. But if it's an example of just, hey, people invested in stuff and they lost money, then no. Like, dude, you got to think, let's assume the SEC thing is not like, if it's fraud, then he's guilty. If it's not, then he's not, right? If I'm an investor and I remember this, like Tai was pitching everyone on buying dead companies, Radio Shack, freaking Bed Bath &
Pier 1 Imports.
They're already bankrupt. These companies already don't work. And he's like, well, we're going to revise the brands and go online and all this other stuff. And, the brand equity is worth it and we can go e-commerce and whatever. And it's like, okay, if I'm an investor, which by the way, you got to be accredited to invest in these funds, meaning you're already a millionaire in most cases. I know inherently this is a super risky bet. I'm betting on a bankrupt business. And just knowing that, it's like, yeah, I might make a 10x, I might make even more, or there's probably no in between. It's probably going to zero, or it's probably a 10x. There is no in between. And so when it goes to zero, it's like, are you really, like, what did you expect?
All investments can go bad. And I think when they go bad, I don't think that inherently means fraud. And I think that's what gets missed in this space I exist within on social media, which is investors lost money. Is it fraud? Sometimes people think that just because money was lost, it's fraud, which is not always the case, which is why some of these conversations are a little complicated. You're a little more connected to that world. If Tai Lopez took 15 of the 100 million he raised and used it for lifestyle, do you see a problem with that?
If I'm objectively looking at it,
forget the name. It's just John Smith raised the money, and 15% of the funds were
so if
lavish
I'm objectively
lifestyle.
Looking at it, the first thing you would look at is what does the PPM say? So
what is
the PPM is the I forget what the word actually or the acronym means, but it's the 100-page plus document that every investor must sign and acknowledge for how they're going to use the money, how it's going to be distributed, how much that he can use for business expenses, what he gets paid, everything. So I have no clue what the PPM actually says. So this is the part that people aren't like, I'm sure it's out there. Just look it up. Because he may have had in the PPM, hey, 10% of the funds go towards business ops of Tai Lopez Inc., whatever. He could also say, hey, we get a 10% acquisition fee. Like, we get 10% of whatever we get. It could be 1%. It could be 5%. Like, the point is, I don't know the details of the PPM, but if the PPM said he has the right to go use the money on Tai Lopez Inc., and they agreed to it, you can't be mad. Now, if it didn't say that and he did do it, then it's fraud.
What do you think is an adequate punishment for, let's assume the worst case scenario, which was he didn't disclose spending, he was spending on his lifestyle to build his brand, and multiple millions of dollars were used for him personally when he didn't disclose that?
If he didn't disclose it, then yeah, I mean,
I know it's very hard to be objective on this, like when you know someone, especially a guy like Ty.
I mean, I'm like, if he didn't disclose it and it wasn't in the PPM, then he's gonna.
But could he say it was marketing? Could he say like the rentals and the cars?
But the PPM would say that. That's my point. The PPM would say,
"Have you seen his PP?
Have you seen his PPM?" But it would
no, seriously, have you seen it?
I have not. No, I didn't know that existed.
This is the problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Every single fund has a PPM that's over 100 pages that outlines everything you guys are asking. And so unless you've read it, you can't say he did something wrong until you tell me, hey, what if it says he can spend 10% on marketing and his version of marketing, which, by the way, if you invest with Tai Lopez, you would know his marketing is a Lamborghini in a garage and other crap. You can't be like, oh man, I'm so surprised he spent it on lifestyle. This fool's the lifestyle. You're an idiot if you think he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I think another angle to this is the fact that he positioned himself as an expert, loses all this money. Does your perception of him get altered after that?
This is the other part. He isn't an expert in retail. He's never done retail. Like, once again, you as the investor are going to this guy and saying, yeah, I think he can revive Radio Shack and Bed Bath & Beyond. When? When has he ever run some retail big organization or publicly traded company? He hasn't. He has no expertise on it. And you're surprised, like, you lost money.
Do you think the people that lost money, do you consider them victims? Even if they signed, they knew all the disclosures, they lost all this money, do you consider that person a victim?
If it was fraud and he deceived them, sure. But once again, if it's just a normal investment, these are all multi-millionaires, okay? They have to be an accredited investor, which means they have $1 million plus net worth. There's other ways to get there, but everybody who reads it is well off to be an accredited investor. Once again, I come from the stage of accountability where I have lost millions on my own investments.
Mm-hmm.
I've never and I've invested with other people and I lost millions. You know, I've bought real estate deals that went bad that I lost. And I'm just like, look, at the end of the day, why did I lose? Well, I made the choice to invest in this thing and I didn't, you know.
I think most entrepreneurs, multimillionaires, successful entrepreneurs are going to be, if you look at a scale, they're going to be on your side of this, which is they always take personal accountability, which I generally think is the best approach to life. When you make a decision and it goes wrong, even if the other guy...
But everyone in this fund is a millionaire.
Right. And so I think what generally happens on the internet is you have, obviously, most people they're not multimillionaires. And so they see guy raises money, loses money, therefore it has to be fraud. Everyone's a victim. And it's challenging from my position because I have to discern between the two, because not every bad investment, a real estate investment that loses money, I've lost money on deals too. You've flipped houses. You could flip a house and lose money, and you could do 100 deals a year, raising money on all 100, and all 99 of them make everyone money, and then one loses money, and then someone on the internet is like, this guy's a fraud because he lost money. And
look at you had mentioned this earlier, our friend Brandon Turner is going through this right now. I mean, like, they bought $1 billion worth of real estate, and he's had a 15, 20-year real estate career of just 19 years of pretty much nothing but, well, not nothing. I'm sure he's had losses along the way, like every investor, but tons of success. And then, you know, he loses for the first time publicly, and then everyone's turning on him. And I'm just like,
I think it's the number, because you made a good point, which is you raise $1 billion and lose 15. That's 1.5%, I think. Whereas
he bought $1 billion.
Okay, bought it. Regardless, it raises 100 million, lose it, whatever. It's still like a fraction,
right?
But to the average person, $15 million to me is a substantial amount of money, as it is to most people on this planet. But occasionally, if you raise a bunch of money and lose 15, okay, that's one deal gone bad. And so I think the internet sees that and goes, he lost 15 million. substantial amount of money. Therefore, he's lost a lot of investor capital.
Yeah.
That may not be the case.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode, but how would you like to be the one that I'm interviewing on this show? I'm looking for entrepreneurs who've got a great message to share, who have an inspiring story, and who can add value to the audience. So submit by going to wealthyway.com. Yeah.
What
And, like,
about where do you, because we kind of switched topics, where do you stand on, do you believe those people were victims that invested with Tai Lopez?
Absolutely.
You think they
I
were
think so.
victims?
I skew a little more on victims than I think it's good to have personal
what if it
responsibility,
wasn't fraud?
I still think they're victims. Yeah, because I think the way
And
he
they're
positioned,
millionaires.
yeah, the way he positioned himself, I think was very misleading. I wish I would have read the complaint before this. I would have been a little more prepared. However, there was stuff in there that led me to believe that he mismanaged the fund. And so
That would be fraud.
where's
Fraud
okay.
would be
So
mismanagement of
where do you think fraud versus incompetence? Do you ever think about this on because they're
Yeah,
two-
fraud is like knowingly
knowingly
doing
okay,
those
and then
things.
what about incompetence? Like if I gave you money to go flip a house, I know you've positioned yourself as an expert, you have past experience with it,
Yeah.
and then you take the money, you don't really show up to the job, you hired your F-level contractor, you didn't really take care of my money well, and we lose money. Would you consider that fraud or incompetence?
So they call that what's the word?
Mismanagement?
No, it's not mismanagement. Fiduciary duty.
Yes.
So you have a fiduciary duty to your investors to basically do to the best of your ability. And so if you don't do it to the best of your ability, then you have breached the fiduciary duty.
And I think part of that we're not reading from the complaint, but I think if we went back and read the complaint, a part of it was alleging that he had extreme mismanagement. And so you could
Yeah,
argue maybe it was
if
slightly,
he
but
broke his fiduciary duty, then he's gonna. But they're gonna have to prove that.
which is really hard, to be fair.
Proving fraud is really hard.
It's
Proving
very
that's
hard.
really hard. Like
Why is that hard?
Because you have to prove intent.
fraud
Yeah.
almost never gets proved.
How do you prove intent? How do you prove that when he was spending $1 million a month trying to revive Pier 1 Imports or Radio Shack, what was 1 million the adequate amount for marketing and hiring people?
Mhm.
Or was it just fraud? Was he funneling the money into his own marketing company? So he was profiting, but also you could argue they needed a lot of marketing dollars, a lot of advertising
sure.
dollars, because these were dead brands.
Yeah.
And so this is where it gets really, really
Well,
challenging.
then you could prove how much marketing he actually did for the
But how much
business.
was appropriate? That's a really
Yeah,
tough question to
it's
answer.
Like I even remember back then when they were doing it, like the Radio Shack Twitter was kind of funny. Like
It was.
they were doing a good job, like getting the brand. People were like, dude, the Radio Shack's like pretty funny and
Yeah.
and becoming relevant again. It's like he would argue, well, look, like we gained virality, we did all the things we wanted to do. Unfortunately, nobody ended up going to the site and buying crap. But like we marketed the way we thought we could.
Yeah.
That would be his argument.
I think one of the angles I come from with Tai Lopez is he's had so much personal benefit by positioning himself as the brand he's built, and so then to raise the money he did, and then to lose it all. We're not talking about 20% losses. We're talking about a significant. This wasn't a $1 million loss. This
And
was
that's a good point too
100 plus
that I
million.
want to agree with and add of like, okay, this was a total. Well, actually, I don't want to say that because I don't know that it was a total loss because I know they sold it back to the investors, and so it's not like they. From what I remember, they still own the companies. So
We'll fact check this.
yeah, what I remember is that he ended up selling back all the companies to the investors. So now the investors have the companies, and they just have to go figure out how to operate it.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm not saying it's a total loss because technically it's not. They have the company still.
But it's not what they wanted.
The
No,
la-
it's not
yeah,
what anyone
yeah,
wants.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, it's the same way an investor in real estate. So if you lend me a first position lien and unfortunately the deal doesn't work out and you foreclose on me,
Yeah.
it's not what you wanted, but you still have the collateral, the house
Potentially.
from the deal.
Potentially.
No,
'Cause,
you
like,
do. If you're
but
a first
but if those-
position lien,
Yeah, but like in that example, if let's just say the house is still destroyed and
Yeah.
now I gotta go
well,
spend
the
more
business is
money.
destroyed too.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying, but that's how every loan like with collateral works. Like, what's our
Yeah.
worst case scenario? Well, we're going to foreclose on the house and,
Yeah.
it could
I'm
be
just
this.
giving feedback to the sense that maybe they didn't get any real value back. They just got more
And-
issues.
I guess the point too I want to make is like, I'm just giving you guys the counter arguments to everything you would see online.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is about. Like, I'm not saying that Ty's innocent or any of these things. I'm like, well, here would be the counter argument to your argument that nobody says.
And the last point I want to make on this before we can move on is I really didn't like how he promoted his business partner. Back in 2020, one of my closest YouTube
Who was
friends,
his business partner?
Alex Mayer, M-E-H-R, one of my closest YouTube friends, Tom Nash, and I were I'll give him credit because he was on it, but this was back in like 2020 when they first started raising money. The advertising was this guy sold a business for 300 million.
Alex did?
Alex did. Zoosk,
Okay.
Zoosk. It was a dating app, 300 million. And so the way it was promoted is this guy, and you probably know this better than anyone, but when you sell a company for 300 million, it doesn't mean you walk with 300 million. But
Yeah.
that was the perception of watching the advertising from the average investor out there who may not know better.
For sure.
But when we actually looked into the details, this guy, and look, he's way more successful than I am. I've never sold a company, so I'm not trying to criticize him for this. But when you sell a company for 300 million and that's the advertising, and then you find out when you look down in the details that he was actually let go right before the company sold, and you find out that he only made 8 or 12 million in equity when the company sold. Okay, I would appreciate you saying that as opposed to leading with the 300 million. And so I think he raised money using what I would consider unethical marketing. And when we went on the calls, Tom and I were actually kind of clowning him. And Tom knows a lot more about investing funds than I do. So he was asking really good questions that a solid investor would ask. And we got booted off the call. He was not answering the questions. And so I think knowing all this, that's where I'm a little more critical of the Tai Lopez fund, because I don't think this is similar to, hey, this guy's a really successful guy. He raised some money and one of his funds went under.
Yeah.
I think this was a lot more devious.
I think too, like, just to go on that topic of selling companies and branding and all this stuff, it's like, I'll give multiple examples here. So like for me on market, hey, I've bought and sold $100 million worth of real estate, which is true. I have bought and sold successfully $100 million. Does that mean I made $100 million? No, that's literally the sales price of everything we've ever sold. Same thing when people are like, how much does your business do? Oh, we do $10 million a year. It's like, that's revenue. That's clearly not profit. And maybe unsophisticated people would think it's profit, but anyone with any level of competency is like, yeah, that's the revenue. So once again, it kind of depends on that. But even when I think about, I'll just even use Shark Tank as an example. Like Kevin O'Leary, he talks about, his first successful sale was his e-learning company. And it sold for, I can't remember the number, but it's hundreds and
pretty
hundreds.
substantial amount.
Yeah, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions, maybe even $1 billion.
I
think it was $1 billion
too.
Yeah, it might have been $1 billion, but if you go and look at it, he personally walked away with like 10 or 20, something. It was to this point,
a fraction.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
But like, what is he supposed to say? The company he founded and was the CEO of sold for $1 billion. Those are facts. Now, granted, like every big, massive company, usually nobody owns 100% of it. Like you got to get investors, you get diluted, you got partner. Like there's almost no company where somebody sells for $1 billion, they own 100%. There's almost no company that anyone really owns 100% that exits for the most part. Almost all of them have some form of investors, partners, everything else. So it's like, in today's real estate market, it is really difficult to find cash flow, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. For this reason, I'm a huge fan of wholesaling real estate right now specifically. It's the strategy that I'm using in my real estate investing business, and it's what all of our students at Wealthy Investor are doing as well. And we give you everything that you need to start your wholesaling business and have the same exact system that I have. You get the motivated seller leads, the same softwares, the same systems, processes, and one-on-one coaching and support. We'll show you step by step how you can get started today and get your first deal in 30 days or less. So go to wealthyinvestor.com today.
I got a question for you.
It's
Something
hard.
we might debate on. If you're selling courses on how to flip real estate and you say, I've bought and sold $100 million of real estate, I think that's totally ethical. I think the difference is when you start raising money. I bought and sold. Me personally, I'm not some real estate king, man. I'm out of real estate, but I could come up with some numbers because my houses were expensive. I could say I bought and sold $4 or $5 million worth of real estate, which I have, but I'm by no means successful. So if I'm gonna sell a course, like I know how to do it, I can sell some information. However, if I'm gonna raise money and I'm using that as but if you know me, like I actually didn't make much money in real estate if at all, and I've lost money on deals.
Yeah.
But if I didn't disclose that, I think that's unethical to then take people's money, not for courses, for information, but if I'm gonna raise money with the business venture to go flip real estate and I don't disclose that I've actually not really been that successful on my own, would you find that to be unethical?
I think you present the facts and let people decide. If you're like, look, I've sold $5 million worth of houses. It was 10 houses and, 7 of them were winners, 3 were losers. I got this next deal coming up. Do you want to invest?
So as long as you disclose that there was somewhere, the full facts is where it becomes, I agree with that.
Yeah,
so,
like even on my podcast, I'm just like, look, I've lost millions on real estate deals. I've been sued. You could go look me up. Guys like Spencer have made many videos on me. I don't give a crap. I'm like, go look it up. It's all public information. I'm not hiding from anybody. And if you still want to do business with me, despite all of those things, fantastic.
Yeah.
And but that's how I operate. I know most people don't. And most people are like, well, you're still a scammer because you have a failure. And I'm like, okay, well, the next 40 years I'm in business, I bet you I'm going to have many more.
I've been contacted by people calling you a con artist. Like, I can't believe you're friends with a con artist or a
Yeah.
scammer. And so what is your definition of a con man or a fraudster in regards to the social media influencer space? How do you see that word or that definition? I'll give you mine while I give you a chance to think. I think a con artist is someone that knowingly deceives. And so, using this real estate example, like me, I could come out and maybe even double my numbers. Say I've been a part of 10 million because I advised someone. We can manipulate numbers, and like
Right.
I'm using this big number to then sell you on a dream when in reality I've lost a lot of money, and I'm deceiving you so that I can personally profit. I think that's a fraudster. I think someone who knowingly deceives on their expertise. So if you claim to have a certain level of expertise that you don't have,
You're misrepresenting.
you misrepresent it. And that's very common. And this is a little nuanced because some people might say, I'm a real estate expert. Well, who gets to gatekeep on what's a real estate expert? Because I like to think I was a real estate agent. I know a lot about real estate. I could probably consider myself an expert, but also relative to you, I'm not. So who gets to define expertise? So I think
Yeah.
a fraudster is someone that claims and certainly sells themselves and personally gains off of these misrepresentations. And so is that in line with what you believe?
Yeah, I think both of those are accurate. I would say, so you brought up 3 points. The first point was what actually makes you an expert. And this is something I struggled with when I first got into the guru space. It was 2018. I was at actually Grant Cardone's 10X event, and Brunson was on stage, and he was like, you guys are all experts, like you can teach people. And at that point, I was close to flipping like my 100th home. And I was like, I don't know if I'm qualified to like teach. And then like after his thing, I was like, I'm like way more than qualified. Like I flipped 100 homes. This is a lot. And since then I flipped, many more hundreds. But like the point he made too was even if I hadn't flipped 100, if you've only flipped 10, you're still better than 99% of people who want to get in their first
Yeah, I would
flip.
say you're still an expert.
You're still an expert in my eyes, objectively,
Yeah.
relative to the entire population.
And to the IRS, depending on how you file your
Yeah,
taxes.
like, so that part, that's my opinion of like, hey, what's an expert? Well, I mean, like, even if you've only done 2 deals, if I remember, dude, when I was first a realtor and like I met these realtors who already did like 2 deals, I'm like, bro, I haven't done any. Like, dude, teach me your ways. So it's just like,
Ironically, sometimes that's actually the best person to learn from because they know your current pain points
Yeah.
more than the guy that already has millions of dollars.
So like, I don't see a problem paying somebody who's any level ahead of you to do something. So that's one point you made. The second point was with misrepresenting, your own accomplishments. And so we kind of already touched on that. Like, I agree. Like, I think literally you should just be transparent about the wins, the failure. And that's one thing, again, I really respect Brandon, what he did. He just got on the forefront.
Yeah.
He said, yo, this is what it is. It sucks.
So would you consider someone a fraudster if they're both the this is a question for both of you guys. Would you label someone a fraudster if they vastly misrepresent? Like not just a little bit, but vastly. Hey guys, I've bought and sold businesses when in reality maybe they sold one and it was barely profitable. Would you consider that being a fraudster? Would you label them as such?
But it's still true. Like it just goes back to the fact of like, has this guy exited a business? Is that what he said?
It's
Now-
puffery, right? Real estate term.
If people,
How much is puffery?
perceive it a certain way, like I would argue everyone online. Once again, I just literally explained how I've bought and sold $100 million of real estate, and there are going to be people who say, "Well, that's misrepresentation because you didn't make $100 million." I'm like, well, I don't know what else to tell you. Like those are the facts. You could go literally look it up, and I don't think that's definitely in my eyes not It's just a fact, We've stated on, I'll give another one, right? On the show, we've gotten over 1 billion views on social media. I say that sometimes as like, oh, so what have you like done? So we're like, well, we've gotten over 1 billion views. Well, your recent videos aren't that hot. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Like these are still facts of what we've done. I played pro baseball. Well, did you get to the big leagues? No, I didn't get to the big leagues, but I got paid to play professionally. Wasn't a lot of money. I made $1,200 a month. But I was a professional, which the definition is you get paid to do a thing. So I don't know. It's like if people, in my eyes, it goes back to the person listening. If they can't comprehend the truth because of their incompetence, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
Are you in line with that too? In regards to
I think I'm
labeling?
more like worried when people start to puff things up. But I do understand like I think off camera we spoke before and I was like, you are a real estate expert. You had a bunch of rental properties. You had a ton of tenants. You've bought and sold more real estate than 99% of people out there. So I'll probably give more grace to.
Would you two feel taken advantage of though if let's just picture you not knowing me. If I came out and said, I bought and sold businesses, you can invest in my fund, and you go, oh, it sounds good. Yeah, let's give this guy money. And after the fact, when it doesn't go well, you found out that there was a lot of puffery. There was a lot of
I could see
misrepresentation.
how people can be upset about that. Yeah.
Would
But
you
it's
though? Would you feel taken advantage of?
personally, I don't give anyone money ever. That's like my rule. I do not, I never have invested.
Are you
into-
kids still complaining about that now?
I have
Where's the
never-
allowance, Daddy?
No, I have never invested in anyone's business or deal ever in my whole career.
Okay, so it doesn't
I have
apply
to be the
to you.
owner.
Okay,
Yeah,
but what
I've
about you?
invested in his deals.
Yeah, he's invested in my deals and always got paid.
We've always won.
Yeah.
But if we lose,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, freak, dude.
You're
You
like,
just
let's
see
do
me.
one podcast real quick.
That'd be a
What's
good.
my money?
That'd be a good confronting podcast.
I freaking lost my money. This idiot, he lied to me. I'm suing him. So no, but like the third thing you brought up, and this is the most important one because this is actually in court too. What we're talking about, intent. What was the intent of the person, when they were advertising it, doing the deal, whatever else?
Yeah.
And so like this is the thing I've always told people. I'm like, look, in my failed businesses, I know my intent when I started the business and when I did it. Now, nobody else can ever say they know my intent other than me and God. There is no one else who truly knows my intent.
Yeah.
And that's just the facts. Nobody else will ever know. Now, that's why fraud is so hard to prove because you cannot prove somebody's intent. Like only they truly know. And so like every business I've ever started, I can tell you, I've always started them with two things. One, to make money. Transparently, I don't start any business to not make money. If it's not to make money, it's called a nonprofit. So that's number one. Number two, to help people. And like, you can look at anything. If we have a tax firm, dude, we want to help people with their taxes. If we have a real estate coaching, man, we want to help people get into the real estate game. If we start a fund, man, we want to help make these investors money. I also want to make money in all of these things too, or else they wouldn't be a business. So those are the two things that I do when I start something. Now, what's the outcome? Well, 80% of businesses fail, statistically speaking, at some point in 5 years. Like that's the normal outcome of how things go down.
And you evaluate people's behavior on your understanding of their intent? Is that accurate to say?
You guys know I love the game of golf, and that is why I started M19. It is a golf mastermind for entrepreneurs who are doing over 7 figures in their business and who want to go on bucket list golf trips together. We already have hundreds of members all across the country, and we've been to some of the best courses in the world, places like Pebble Beach, Pinehurst, Bandon Dunes, and many others. The course is the best place to do deals, make great relationships, and have fun. So go to mastermind19.com today. Well,
This is where it gets really tricky. And I'll add
that's what I'm saying. You can't judge. Like, I don't know anyone's.
This is
intent.
what's so hard. There was a video, Casey Neistat interviewed Logan Paul after the Forest incident in 2018. And this has stuck with me because I really respect Casey Neistat. And I've always tried to be the guy to like, I want to evaluate someone's intent. Was his intent good? And I found out that very often is the case, people's intent is good. And what Casey was talking about with Logan Paul was that I don't look at intent. I just look at the outcome. And that's shifted my perspective a lot because it's really easy to go, oh, well, he meant well and he's a good guy. Yeah. And especially once you know someone, you get to know them, it's easy to be a little influenced by them being the quote unquote good guy. Maybe they donate to charity. Maybe they introduce you to your wife or whatever, or introduce your wife to you or whatever. And I've kind of stopped looking at that. I stopped looking at intent. What is the outcome? Because at the end of the day, that's kind of all that matters.
Yeah.
So a couple of things to add to this. I forgot who I had on the pod, but we were literally talking about this, and he was of that boat. He's like, I just look at the result, the outcome. And so like let's think about this, because my worldview is from the Bible of how I believe things. But also too, we can look at the court of law and everything else. So the court of law, to prove fraud, is going to look at the intent. They're not clearly the outcome was bad, or else nobody would be getting sued. If the outcome was good, there would be no lawsuit. So clearly, for somebody to get sued, the outcome did not go the way that both parties had hoped. Therefore, they're now trying to prove what was the true intent, going into it. So the court of law thinks intent supersedes outcome. The second thing is, biblically speaking, right? Like if we're just talking about this, like God judges people's hearts and their intent of how they're doing things, right? The outcomes of all of these different Christians in the Bible, dude, they did some terrible things. They've murdered people. They've slept with other people's wives. They've, denied Jesus. Like, they have done terrible results-based actions, and yet God still forgave them because he knew the intent of their heart. And, they repented too. Repentance is a big part of this, of like, hey, you know what? I made this mistake. I'm not going to keep doing that. And so you really only have like, you get to see somebody's fruit and results over a long period of time. You never get to see it in the moment that drama is happening. This whole Tai Lopez situation, my life and situation, you're not going to be able to know whether or not there was true repentance and what the intent was and the rest of their fruit until many, many years from now.
Mhm.
And that's the reality. Like, everything looks like drama while it's happening, but
Yeah, there was a Baller Busters post coming at you a long time ago. And I remember one of the reasons why I'm totally cool aligning with you and defending you when I can is I've seen, here's how I judge behavior, and this will be an interesting topic point, is when the proverbial crap hits the fan, how does the person react? Because if you raise money or you have any type of influence, you get millions of views, billions of views in your case, something's going to go wrong at some point.
many.
I've had videos where I've said things that upset people. How do you react to the problem? And I've seen you try to make it right. In my version, or my perception is you trying to make it right. And where I try to evaluate people like a Tai Lopez is when crap hits the fan, what do you do after that? Do you try to go out of your way to help the investors? Do you seem apologetic? Are you trying to make things right?
Yeah.
And I don't really evaluate intent anymore. I try to evaluate how do they react. There was the Amazon automation was a big deal a few years ago, and I've made videos on some people and maybe avoided videos on others. I know you had a business in that area, and there was many of these guys that were living the high flashy lifestyle, and the second things went wrong, they continued selling the program to investors knowing that it was going wrong, and they were still spending substantial amounts of money on their personal life. And I made videos on those guys because that to me is a sign of fraud. Your intent was not to do right by your investors.
Yeah.
And then there are some people who they raise money and they buy a business and it goes wrong, and they still and the investors still come back for more. So clearly they have a good relationship. That's where I try to evaluate intent or evaluate the person to be, are they worthy of a video, or are they worthy of vitriol?
Yeah.
As opposed to maybe other people who have a similar situation, but they try to make it right.
And that's kind of my point is, once you know that it's not working out, or you know that you made the wrong choice, or that the way you thought things were going to play out are not playing out, you now have a choice to make. You either keep up the charade, or you basically do whatever's the best thing you can do now with the chips wherever they are, right? Because like, if you're about to go lose all this money on a real estate deal, what do you do?
Are you still taking distributions? That's a good question too.
Yeah, like,
as the owner, are you still taking fees when your investors are losing money?
Yeah, like that. Are you, doing everything possible to try and make the deal good? And if it still can't be good, it is what it is.
Let's
right?
transition to the Brandon Turner one.
Okay.
So like, let's give more context on like the whole situation and what happened. Because you actually spoke to him. Did you look into it?
I've read the post on Instagram.
Okay. So like, can you give context of what happened with Brandon Turner?
I mean, I think he pretty much explained it
For the people
the
listening.
same way that, I mean, like, he has a fund, like I said, and I don't know how much total equity they've raised. It has to be over 9 figures of equity. So for those who don't know, equity would be the actual investor capital in the deal. So when I say he bought $1 billion, he didn't raise $1 billion. He bought $1 billion of real estate, which would mean he probably raised 200, maybe 300 million in equity.
Yeah.
So recently he said, hey, we just had a total loss of, X, and it was $15 million on, one of the deals in the fund, and there could be more. That's what he said. And I've known this for a while with like lots of syndicators. Like, dude, the multifamily market is the worst it's been since 2008. So clearly people are going to lose money. And it's not just influencers. Influencers are the easiest ones to attack, but mega funds are losing hundreds of millions, literally just giving the properties back to the bank. So
look at some of the office deals in Chicago. It come on my X feed occasionally. It's like so-and-so fund bought this deal for 100 million and it sold for 17 million recently.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
these deals are bad, bro.
That's
The
so
office,
bad.
No, there's some that are like 80-90% loss.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
there are deals transacting at 15 cents on the dollar,
Oof.
20 cents on the dollar. And they happen behind the scenes because here's why. They don't want other buyers and people to know, because they got to keep propping the market up. So the banks don't want those deals to be public because guess what? They have loans on all these other properties that are technically underwater. And so the bank's best interest is to make sure this gets quiet so that those loans keep getting paid.
Are you
and
saying that's
everything
because
else.
it creates a new comp?
Yes.
It brings down the market. Oh, okay, because now all the other properties now are worth less because the comparative property is
That's exactly
15 cents.
That was the reason 2008 happened, especially here in Vegas. Vegas was the worst hit market. And the problem was every bank foreclosed all at once and drove everyone's stuff down.
Mhm.
Whereas had they, in hindsight, what should have happened is the bank should have worked with these owners, realized, hey, guys, like, it's definitely not worth what you paid. We'll work with you. We'll revamp the loan. They should have did that with everybody versus just foreclosing on everybody.
Right, because you flood the market all at once,
They
and then it
flooded the
becomes
market all at once.
a
And
feeding
so-
frenzy to the bottom.
What's happening in multifamily is the banks are working with almost every syndicator to figure it out.
Oh, so this problem is much worse, is what you're implying here. That
I'm not implying. I know it.
Yeah. So the market's really bad. Occasionally someone loses their money, but there's also a lot of people who've lost money, but it's just not
For it
public.
to get to that point where the bank was willing to sell it for 15 cents, 20 cents on the dollar, that means they exhausted every option before that. It's kind of like a lawsuit. Like, they're trying to settle and do all this crap. That's why 99% of lawsuits never get to court.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to prevent the last catastrophic outcome that's going to cost everybody a lot of money.
Do you label someone a fake guru if they lose money on a deal, like a Brandon Turner, Ken McElroy?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah. To go
where
back to
where does
Brandon
the
Turner.
where does the line get reached where you go, oh, I think I'm looking differently at that
So,
guy now?
I want to play the other side with Brandon Turner.
Okay.
Just what some people are saying is he had videos where he was like, hey, like, I'm only working 4 hours a week. You know, my lifestyle costs about $60,000 a month or whatever. I think he said that on your podcast or some big number like that. I don't remember the exact number, but you know, the negative people or the people criticizing him are saying like, you were only working 4 hours a week, so you weren't paying attention to this deal that had $15 million worth of people's money, and your lifestyle is very expensive. Maybe that money could have went back to the fund.
Two stupid arguments. So,
They're Tiffany's arguments, by the way.
well, if it's Tiffany made the arguments,
Yeah,
they're
she got
great.
me cheap,
You know what? I agree. No, they're two stupid arguments. So, let's talk about the first one. So, his lifestyle's too expensive. Like,
Well, if he was taking money as a management fee, do you see anything wrong with that to fund this
well,
wealthy
once
lifestyle?
again, I don't know how his funds are set up or anything else, but if he has $1 billion and only one small sliver, I'm sure he has more than enough money coming in lifestyle-wise. He also owns other businesses. It's not just he only makes money as a fund manager. He's got book royalties. He's got a podcast. He's got an education company. He's got a lending thing. Like, he has money coming in from other things.
Mhm.
So people wrongfully would assume, oh, well, he must be stealing investor cap to live. No, he was living this lifestyle before any of these funds too.
And I'm not making those arguments. I'm
I
just
know.
playing the other side.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying-
Do you think
I love Brandon Turner.
do you think it would have been most appropriate?
By the way, Tai Lopez's mansion on my podcast was $100,000 a month just for the mansion. Okay.
Do you think it would be most appropriate for a guy in Brandon Turner's shoes, because he does have what we believe to be pretty substantial wealth outside of this fund, to maybe sell an asset or take money from the book royalties or whatever to then pay these investors back to make them whole? Do you think
The
that's
book royalties
that's
freaking
tough.
ain't paying back
no.
$15 million.
I think he's got like a healthy life program that makes pretty good money.
No, it's not $15 million.
Well,
To make $15 million in the education space.
No, but he has assets. Do you think he should sell a personal asset in order
How do you
to make
know he
these
hasn't
investors whole?
already? I know. He's been keeping it afloat with different things too. I have personally done that on bad deals. So the reality is too, okay, this is the big, so number one, okay, he has money coming in from different things. He can live his life however he chooses, right?
Mhm.
That's number one. The 4-hour work week thing or 4-hour work day thing, whatever the number is. Once again, you invest with a guy knowing that this is the message he preaches. So I've been preaching for the last 10 years. I don't work on weekends. I golf every Friday. If you choose to invest with me, you're like, why is this fool not working weekends? Are you stupid? You knew I don't do that. I'm not putting my family above you. Or sorry, I'm not putting you above my family. Like, that's the reality of the choice. Like, you know that going into investing with me. So that's number one. Number two, he actually did move to Texas where the deal was for 6 months. He uprooted his family to go live there for 6 months to try to get it done. How are you going to tell me he didn't do everything he could to try and keep this deal alive, right?
Yeah.
So, like, once again, the objective facts don't line up there. And then back to number three, this is the whole point of everything that matters in all of this. And it's funny because most people like they forget this part of it. It's back to the PPM and the accredited investors. Every single person investing this fund is a millionaire, most likely, or they're making at least $250K a year for multiple years straight, whatever the rules are. Like, they are very smart, they're savvy, they're well off, everything else. Also, too, in these funds, people are getting, in most cases, in most funds, it's an 80-20 split, meaning the investors get 80% of the upside and a preferred return on their money. So basically, for those who don't know, I'd have to look in the PPM to see their exact terms, but what probably was the deal was, hey, you guys get 8% preferred returns on this deal, meaning you get the first 8%. Once we hit 8%, we chop every profit above that 80-20. That's a typical fund structure. Now, in what world would it be fair that an investor who does none of the work, but they put up the money, right? And Brandon put up his own money too. But in what world would it be fair that they get 80% of the upside, but Brandon is responsible for 100% of the downside? What world is that fair? That makes no sense. And especially too, these aren't like people's last dollar and freaking they're investing into this thing, hoping for the jackpot.
To be fair to the people, we don't know if it was their last dollar or not. They could be a millionaire or...
That's their problem.
Yeah.
That they should not be investing their last dollar in a 5-year multifamily fund. That's their fault. You cannot think that, oh man, I'm gonna invest my last dollar with this guy and I sure hope it works out in the next 5 years. That's your fault. Because you're already a millionaire. You're smart. And actually, technically, it couldn't even have been their last dollar in most cases. It could be their last dollar today because when they made the investment, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe today, money's tight. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm almost certain that nobody invested their last dollar when they made the investment.
I think where this argument has changed a lot is they do have this big influence. Now, social media has really changed the things that they can... they become kind of a celebrity in a way, and the branding is you're an expert, and you lose.
Where do you stand with Brandon Turner?
This is my point. The investors are also experts. This is why accredited investors exist.
I disagree strongly there.
Why?
Ooh.
I don't think making money makes you an expert on investing passively.
But you're an expert at making money.
I disagree there as well. You could be making $250 as a software engineer, and you're like, I've heard about real estate, and here's where the influence comes in. You've positioned yourself as this expert. I trust you. There's this inherent trust because you have this big audience.
But you got to remember, this person who's built wealth to making $250 or $1 million is an expert at making money objectively
In a very specific domain.
It doesn't matter.
So do you think...
The reason that accredited investors exist is because if they lose the money, because they're an expert at making more money, they can go make more money. Now, if you had an unaccredited investor who's not an expert at making money, they know nothing about anything. Clearly, if you make no money, you don't know anything about making money, you don't know anything about investing, you don't know jack crap, or else you wouldn't be broke, right? That's a different situation. Because now you're investing unintelligibly your last dollar with somebody because you don't have money to begin with, and you don't even know what you're investing in. And by the way, if you lose it, you have no clue how you're ever going to make it back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's say I
want to hear your side on Brandon Turner.
Yeah, I very much disagree because I think when you do, I think there's a responsibility when you personally benefit by building this brand as an expert in real estate, and I can raise money. Now, I don't view these people as victims, to be clear. I'm a little more on your side of the argument. They are probably somewhat savvy, especially if you follow Brandon Turner. You're probably not just some
you've been listening
software.
to
You've
real
been
estate
listening,
advice for a long time.
So I don't see them as victims the same way Tai Lopez story is.
Yeah.
However, I do think there's a responsibility that when you personally benefit by building up a brand the way he has, and people are investing in you, they trust you, and then you go lose money. I think this is similar to FTX in that these people aren't victims. There's no lawsuit. You're not going to win a lawsuit or anything. But I do think that Brandon Turner is going to take a hit to his branding, and I think that's fair.
For sure.
I think it's fair that people might stop investing with him because of this, or they stop following him, or stop seeing him as a guru. Now, I don't consider him a fake guru, to be clear, but if he starts losing money on more deals, and this is the question I brought up earlier to you guys, at what point, if he loses money on a second deal, a third deal, a fourth, at what point do you go, oh man, maybe he's not as good as he...
I'll give you my point.
It will happen because every real estate investor is going to lose on multiple deals.
Okay, well, regardless, 2 out of 100 does not make you a fake guru, but just 2 out of 4?
Hold on.
To some people.
I want to give my point.
Yeah,
I haven't talked this whole thing. With Brandon Turner specifically, the real estate market played the role in him losing that deal. It wasn't that he was negligible or whatever, or he committed fraud. Interest rates went up, values went down.
Yeah.
So is he not an expert anymore because the real estate market changed?
It's a great point. I actually think I would agree that yes, it makes him less of an expert because people with more experience have been through more market cycles, and I think first saw this coming.
But how
Now,
would he
to be
know
clear,
that?
I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not positioning myself like I knew better. So
Yeah.
to be clear,
Who knew better? Who
but
knew that
when
was
you're
gonna
buying
happen?
when you're buying the real estate that all these guys were buying when interest rate environment was super low, historically low, looking back, it looks pretty obvious in hindsight that
but bro,
buying bad deals with
everything's obvious in hindsight.
but here's the deal. Like, we just went over this. The smartest people in the world, these big real
Banks.
estate funds and
Yeah.
things that have got billions,
Mhm.
billions and billions, they're losing themselves. And these are literally run by people way smarter
the smartest
than freaking
investors.
YouTube
Totally agree.
gurus.
Totally agree.
And they lose.
Yeah.
Okay, but let me bring this up to you. Another aspect is the problem I have with funds, which is Brandon Turner, because of his success on social media, was able to raise a substantial amount of money. Do you make money by raising money and not buying deals? No, the incentive structure is off, which is you probably went out and bought a deal you probably shouldn't have if you have a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. I think the incentive structure, this isn't aimed at him personally, but
Yeah.
the incentive structure is off by having these funds.
I would say that's every business, though. It's not just a fund. So I'll go back to when I was flipping houses at volume. We would basically every business is built for a certain volume. Okay, so let's say my house flipping business is built for 100 deals a year, and all of a sudden we're light on deals. The market's slow, our marketing's not working, whatever else. Well, I still have two problems. I've got all this capital that needs to be deployed. I also have all these contractors that need work. And if these contractors don't get work, you know what happens? They leave me. If the money doesn't get used, you know what happens? They go use it somewhere else. And so as an operator, this is just one example, you're forced into a decision. Do you let those things go, or do you buy thinner deals to just keep the
business
contractors
going?
busy and
Yep.
keep things going?
Yeah,
You
even a
got
break
staff.
even theoretically is better because you get them
Correct.
working.
Because it would be harder later on down the road to go rehire these people, get the money. So you just are confronted with the choice as a business owner. Do we take less margin and be okay with that? And in most cases, the guys I know, they would do that because it's just harder to build the machine.
Yeah.
Like even in our current businesses upstairs and everything else, I have to keep up a certain amount of leads coming in every day to my sales team because guess what? If they stop getting leads tomorrow, what's going to happen?
Yeah, they
Right.
don't make commission.
They don't make
pay the
commission.
bills.
They're
Yep.
going to leave. Even if I'm not getting the return I want on my marketing, I still got to keep the engine going.
I understand where you're coming from. Here's where I slightly disagree.
But I'm just
the-
saying a fund is the same thing.
Totally get it. I think the same correlation here would be if your investors in the theoretical house flipping business, if you went and bought a bad deal, if they then lost all their money, I think it would be most appropriate for you to then value the deals a little differently. Maybe it's best to say, hey, it's best that you sit this one out. I'm not confident in this deal.
Let me add to this, and this is a really important caveat. The way I structured my house flipping deals is very different than the way that we would structure a fund deal. So in my house flipping deals, all my investors, I would say, hey, you guys get flat interest. It could be 10%, 12%. You're just getting paid interest. That's it. I get 100% of any profit. You're just getting interest. And so they're like, great. Basically, what that means is I get all the upside. I also take all the downside. And so what happened to me in 2022 was I had 50 flips going on, $20 million of flips, and they went negative. I mean, we literally, and this is why I say, like,
But you should have known that, Ryan.
I know.
Dude,
But
in hindsight, it's so obvious.
well, in hindsight, we raised rates faster than the history of the entire United States, which just turned 250 years old. That's what happened. In June of 2022, rates went from 3% all the way to 6, 7, 8% in the span of less than 6 months. It's never happened in the history of our country.
I will allow you the COVID excuse because that was unforeseen. But when you're buying these deals at a really low interest rate and then, oh my God, interest rates rose. Oh my,
Yeah,
I
but
couldn't have
you-
foreseen
but
that.
Everybody knew
almost
interest
tripled.
rates were going to go up,
Yes.
yeah.
but you could not predict they would go up the fastest they ever had in history. Not one person.
Yeah.
You'd be the savant of 250 years of America
Yeah.
to say, I knew for a fact rates were going to rise by 3 to 4% in 6 months.
Sure. But
Nobody could say
the
that.
risk was there. And I think,
No, the risk was, that was literally
yes,
like,
yes, the risk was always there.
the risk, but everything has risk, right?
Yes.
The risk of it rising faster than 250 years of history might have been less than 5%. It
Fair.
hit, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. Now, what I'll say happened with me was those people, All my flips, they basically went negative because prices dropped in Vegas 10%. The average margin on a house flip is 10% of the purchase, or not the purchase price, but the sale price that you're trying to get. So already the profit's gone there. Plus, now the holding costs are getting longer because properties are sitting on the market longer. So that's how you create the loss. It's a combination of prices going down and then hold time increasing. So that's what happened to me. And then inevitably, what happened was I had to pay back all my investors, and I was on the hook for it 100% because that's the deal I made with them initially. And it cost me personally millions of dollars. Now let's go to the flip side of the fund. You go into a fund, you're equity partners. And in many cases with these funds, the investor is getting 80% of the upside. But in that 100-page PPM, they are agreeing that they also take 100% of the downside as well. If things don't work out, they acknowledge I could just lose everything. They are not on the hook to pay me. I don't expect that. I know going into this deal that because I want 80% of the upside and a preferred return of, because they're getting interest plus upside. Like, why would this is why syndicators don't pay the investors. Like, it's just already a deal so far in favor of the investor that, like, why would you cover 100% of their downside too? It just, no syndicator would ever do a deal, if that makes sense. Like, that's the reality of these fund deals that people don't get. When somebody buys, like, let's say they buy a let's just say they buy a $20 million apartment deal. This is the true math of how it plays out for the GP in this case. So let's say it's Brandon. And you can go back on my podcast when we were talking about it years ago before all this went down. He said he's not making anything from the fund. And it's true because I have a fund and it, like, doesn't make crap for me. Here's how it happens. You buy the deal. There's usually like a 1%, maybe 2% acquisition fee or whatever. It can range 1% to 3%, right? It's kind of like a realtor commission in a way. And so you buy this $20 million deal. There's a $200,000 fee, right? Then over the course of however many years you hold it, the goal is to sell it, usually most funds, in 3 to 5 years. That's the goal, to flip it or refinance and whatever, right? But over this next 3 to 5 years, usually you're doing some stabilizing in the early period. So you may not pay distributions right away, unless you're Grant Cardone and you're already buying a fully stabilized asset. But in most cases, the reason you're getting a good deal is because you got to get it occupied. You got to do some work, whatever, right? So you start paying distributions. The investor gets the first 8%. Well, if you know, like, most distributions right now are not 8%. They're way less. They might be 2, 3%. So you as the syndicator are getting nothing. That's going straight to the investor. And by the way, that preferred interest keeps stacking up. So it's not that all of a sudden, well, I can only pay 2% this month. So, it is what it is. Like, no, you still owe them 6% when you do eventually sell the house or the property, right? Like, it accumulates over time, all the preferred interest. So you're really not making much throughout. You could take a 1% management fee per year, but that's not the acquisition fee of the purchase price. It's the management fee of, well, depending on how the PPM structure, it's not a lot of money, right? But essentially what happens is that $200K that you got in acquisition is funding your staff for 5 years because you're not making anything. And if you are, it's very insignificant. Every syndicator's payday is on the sale.
To summarize what you're saying, because I do agree, is that the idea is that these guys are making so much money,
They're not.
millions, and then when they lose money, it's like, oh, but you made millions. And Cardone's, we can transition to
Yeah.
Cardone. He's at the receiving end of this oftentimes because he uses the marketing, the flashy marketing to generate the returns. And so they go, oh my gosh, Cardone, this or that. He's using all of your investor money to buy the private jet.
No.
But very much unlikely.
We'll talk about Grant in a second, but like to sum all that up, if you are lucky on year 5 or whatever it is, and you sell the property, what ends up happening is you get a disposition fee. As long as it was profitable, it's usually the same thing, like 1%. So you'll get the $200,000 or well, obviously you'd sell it for more. So maybe it's $300,000, $400,000, whatever the number is, right? Then you have to pay back all the preferred interest that you didn't pay so far so that they get that return. Then you split 80-20 above that, 80% to the investor, 20% to you as the syndicator. So when it's all said and done, right, let's just say this deal overall between rents, everything, like, okay, $20 million deal, maybe they raised $5 million, let's just say, okay? Most people want to see like a 15% IRR each year. So that basically means over a 5-year period, the 5 million really needs to make another 5 million, give or take. And so if this property essentially like nets $5 million, it's basically all going to the investor first. Before you ever, like that syndicator might make $1 million, maybe $2 million, depending on how good the deal went. So should they be on the hook for $5 million when their upside was only $1 million and the investor had all the upside to make $5 million?
Pretty strong argument. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, they shouldn't, because that's literally why funds exist the way they exist and have existed for 100 years. Like, it just, if I was a syndicator and you were like, Ryan, you know, we want all the upside, but you take all the downside and you do all the work, what world would we do that deal? I would do that deal in a house flip where I'm like, hey, I get all the upside. I'll pay you a flat interest. And if I lose, I still owe you. That works totally fine in that scenario. And we do those deals all the time. But that's why it's like when they're like, well, should the investor pay them back? I'm like, they can if like they really want to do it for their reputation and everything else. But legally, and even in my eyes, assuming they did everything the right way and morally, who would do that deal? It literally makes no sense.
It's certainly a different perspective.
That's because people just don't do it. They just look at the big number. He lost 15 million. It's like, do you understand actually what he made and how this goes? Like, that's the truth of how funds work.
Then the counter argument of that would be, it's very easy to spend other people's money. But you still got to raise it. It takes a talent to raise it. It's not easy.
But even look at venture cap. But look at venture capital too with a business. It's the same thing, right? These venture capitalists come in. They're like, bro, we'll give you $30 million, whatever the number is, millions of dollars, and we want half the company, whatever. You do all the work, right? And then guess what? The business has maybe some success, and they're like, okay, we got to go for our Series B, and they go raise again, and they go raise again, and then that's how these founders end up with 10% by the time they go to exit for 100 million. And you know who gets paid first in line?
All the investors.
Every single investor, starting with Series A, then Series B. And actually, no, it doesn't even work that way. Sometimes Series C and whatever supersedes the original investors. The original investors get diluted because they have to raise more money in order to keep the business going, or original investor is going to lose all their money. Like, that's the world of investing.
I understood this when I was at Graham Stephan's wedding. I sat next to Eric. He runs Carrot.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how they raised money and how he's like, we really need to exit for this much. And I'm like, oh my, just to make money. And I didn't even understand it. And it was this large number. He's like, he did the math and it's like a multiple 9-figure exit. And you would think on paper, multiple 9-figure exit, oh, this guy can go buy a $50 million Beverly Hills mansion.
Nothing.
But he's like, we raised enough money. We had to keep raising. And then the way he explained it, these founders have to exit for millions in that specific example just to walk with anything because how dilution works.
And that's what I'm saying, the moment you start raising money and investors get all the upside. Now, is he responsible if the company fails? No, like, he's not going to owe them anything. Like, that's just, they all took
a venture capital fund is probably the best argument, the strongest argument you can make if you want to take the side of the money raiser was not really responsible for the excess funds. In terms of, you raise a real estate fund, it's similar to a venture capital fund.
Well, if you just even think about it logically speaking, why would I raise money to buy a deal? Because I don't have the money.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't need to raise money to go start a business and do this thing if I already had all the money. I could just start it. So by default, I don't even have the money to pay you back from the jump.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the fact.
Yeah, you're investing in the asset mostly.
The business,
You got to believe in the guy too.
This is why I'm saying it's like people just don't understand how investing works at the highest level with literal Wall Street billionaires. They look at this little investor, he lost $1 million on a deal.
One thing I've really struggled with on YouTube and my space, my little corner of the internet, is I personally benefit by making everyone look like the bad guy. And there's some people who have done this. They make, whether it's Cardone, whether it's whatever guru, it's like they're always the fraudster. And you get all the views and subscribers and you're the good guy calling out the fraudsters. Yeah. And I really try to do my best to discern between, was this fraud? is this guy a fake guru or is he a fraudster? Is he a con man?
Yeah.
Was this just a deal gone wrong? And I've missed out on a lot of topics and a lot of big views on videos because I don't take that stance. I actually very oftentimes will kind of go against the audience or the common audience belief.
What
Cardano's
about-
being a best example.
Yeah, or right now you're going viral for like the Mayweather drama.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about the Mayweather stuff?
I told him, I sent him a text the other day. I was like, dude, somebody 50 Cent was it?
Yeah.
Reposted his thing. I was like, dude, when 50 Cent's reposting
Yeah.
you, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah, that was cool. So I've been in contact with his former manager. So I've kind of
Oh,
known about
Mayweather?
this story. Yeah, I've known about this story for a while. And so he was my source. I shared it in the video.
Yeah.
But I know all the inner workings of Mayweather's
Would
situation.
you say he's a fraudster?
No.
But
He
he
just
got
spends a ton of money.
It got so
didn't he
well,
get
here-
ripped off?
well,
like
here's what-
$400 million or something like that.
So here's what a lot of wealthy people will do. They'll leverage if they're well known enough such that when they're involved in litigation, it becomes news story. Let's imagine I was famous enough and
Nice.
I don't like what you're doing to me.
Yeah.
I'll sue you alleging you defrauded me. And it's like Spencer Cornelia was defrauded by his friend.
Yeah.
It hits the media because
Yeah.
I'm so assuming I'm so well known. In this case, Floyd Mayweather. And so they will sue just to generate the media, to get the media on your side to go against the guy who allegedly defrauded you. It's kind of
Yeah.
fascinating to watch the inner workings because I was on the phone with Jonah the other day. He's the Mayweather's former manager. And so Floyd sued him alleging $175 million worth of fraud. Well, I was talking
Oh,
to him and he
wow.
goes, hey, Floyd's calling me. I got to get off the call. They're still talking. And Floyd still hasn't served him.
Mm.
Meaning, if you know anything about litigation, you have to serve the
Yeah.
other person in order to begin the process. So this wasn't a real lawsuit. In
Also,
the
they
sense
still work together.
kind of. Yeah.
What the heck?
So
Yeah.
I can sue you.
Yeah.
You can sue for anything. And so what gets misconstrued is this idea that like because there was a lawsuit filed, all of it is fact. And you can point the finger at me if you want a little bit because I can benefit. I'll make a video reporting on the lawsuit, even though I know that something's not right. I'll give you a perfect example. Here's why sometimes I feel guilty. I feel kind of bad about this because lawsuits are just one side of the story. And so one of my recent videos, I'd made 3 videos on Mayweather. The second one, I think it was the second or third one, was about this company CSI. So they have a contract with Floyd Mayweather for Mayweather to fight both Mike Tyson in an exhibition fight and then
Holy-
Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, wow.
And the contract stated Mike Tyson, they pay Floyd Mayweather $14 million. He takes what's called an advance of roughly $2 million for the Tyson fight. But
Mhm.
also by contract, you're going to fight Manny Pacquiao afterwards. And because we've signed, you can take the advance for the Tyson fight and the Pacquiao fight. So Floyd Mayweather has accumulated $4 to $5 million of it from the advance. And then some things go wrong and Netflix steps in and says, actually, we want the Pacquiao fight. So now they signed the deal with Netflix because obviously you'd want to be on Netflix. This is
Yeah.
a bigger deal. They can pay more. And there's more certainty with Netflix. They'd be able to deliver on the production of the fight versus this other company that might not believe it. Well, anyway, I was talking to Jonah the other day and he shared with me, he goes, bro, CSI sued because Mayweather didn't give back the advance. So he's defrauding them, right? Obviously, he took the advance and then didn't fight and then never gave the advance money back. So I've seen text messages of them trying to get the wire info to send the wire back to CSI. So my point is that the lawsuit CSI alleges that Floyd takes the advance, doesn't pay it back. I've seen text messages of them trying to give the money back to CSI.
Oh,
so
so
who's the
Mayweather
bad guy
tried
here?
to
Yes,
pay
who's
them.
and also maybe there's another side of this. Maybe that was a fictitious text
Yeah.
message or something, or maybe
Yeah.
they were trying to give. So my point is all this. There's like so much nuance in all this that it's kind of hard being a reporter on YouTube because
Yeah.
at times I know there's more to the story, but I know I'll get all the views going, this is a scam or this is a fraud. But I'm like, deep down, I'm like, I really should. The most ethical thing would be to know the full story and then report on the full story,
Do you
but that
think-
doesn't get the
Do
views.
you actually think Mayweather's going broke?
I know he is.
No
Yeah.
way.
Well, he's
no
buying jewelry.
way, bro.
Well, okay,
So
understand that
what?
my level of broke is I've ridden the bus. I rode the bus in Las Vegas because I
Me
was
too.
broke. And
The
okay,
double
so we were
decker.
yes,
that
we
bus.
were broke, and you were a teacher when you met your wife. You
Yeah, I
were
was a
probably
substitute
you would
teacher.
probably categorize yourself as broke at
I
the
would
time.
too.
He was a
Yeah.
brokey.
I was
So we were all
broke.
broke, but
Yep.
obviously a wealthy broke. Your version of broke now would be different than my version, different
Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah,
Mayweather's
yeah,
version.
yeah,
And so I think
yeah.
I've made a series of videos on this. I really enjoy talking about the finances of these guys who make a lot of money. They build up this lifestyle where they have maybe 6 mansions and it costs you $100,000 each
He can only
to
have one
maintain.
mansion now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
I think they have this life where they have huge expenses. I can't even understand the level of expenses.
Have you seen
also
his
have-
expenses?
Not exactly, but
Oh.
Jonah told me it's $3 million a month.
Oh my!
Right? So that's 36 million a year.
That's how you'll go
You
broke.
look like a brokey.
Right, but think about this. Let's say he has 50 million and I say he's broke. Well, that's ridiculous because I don't have 50 million. Why are you calling a guy broke? But if your run rate is $36 million and you stop fighting, you're
Yeah.
broke within 16 months.
Yeah.
And so when he's not going to ride the bus to the Pacquiao fight. But when I say he's broke, he is at this point, if he does not have income coming in 16 months, he's bankrupt. He's already
Really?
pawning jewelry. You don't
Yeah,
pawn
but-
jewelry when you're
But
wealthy.
maybe he gets tired of the jewelry.
Yeah, but you're not pawning it. You're selling it. You just sell it off.
Ironically, my friend at the country club, because his main house in Vegas is where I live, and it was on the market, and he was in escrow to buy it.
Your friend was?
And then
Oh, Mayweather's house.
yeah, Mayweather's house. Yeah.
Got it.
It's on I won't say what hole, but I'll
Yeah.
show you next time we play. And then he backed out after due diligence and stuff. Just he didn't like the neighbors and stuff, but it was going to be a good deal.
Really? Didn't he sell
It's
it?
definitely a distressed deal.
I thought he sold it.
Really?
I thought he sold it.
Much below market is what you're indicating?
This was this was I don't even remember how long ago it was. It was definitely before your bid.
Didn't Graham tell us they sold it for like 17 million or something?
No.
It was less.
Way less.
So you think about the lifestyle they live.
Let me look it up.
When you buy a house for 15 and you sell it for 10, okay, you still walk with 10, but you just lost 5 million of after-tax dollars.
Well, you probably didn't walk with 10. You may have had to. What was your loan?
What was the loan, or what was the agent commissions? Did you have?
You might have
behind-
had to come. I've come out of pocket many deals to sell the deal.
Right, and some of that might not be disclosed because you could have another contract saying, "Hey, I'll give you this, or that" outside of the sale. And so I think what happens with guys like Mayweather is, for a long time, he's always had the ability to generate a fight, which, to his credit, he can make 50 million, 30 million. The second Pacquiao fight, which is way less interesting than the first, he was going to make $35 million. I've seen the contract.
Well, this is like
Well, to
in a
be
single
fair,
night.
he bought the mansion for 9.5 and he sold it for 12.5.
which one?
I put in Vegas mansion.
But he has multiple.
I think the 12,700 square foot one in Southern Highlands,
Okay.
Yeah.
When do you sell it?
2024. October of 2024.
I don't know because
Oh, it says recent. It was listed October 24 and recently sold.
exactly. Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
it didn't sell too.
Yeah.
much.
Okay, think about it like this.
No, it was listed at 12.
Yeah.
It didn't sell at 12.
Maybe a
I know for
off
sure.
market type deal. Okay, but
Okay.
think about this. So here's where I come from with, like, do I know his absolute finances? Of course not.
Yeah.
But also, if Ryan started selling his watches at a discount, if he was not taking vacations, if he started indicating that there was some financial distress, hey, why are you taking all these loans?
Yeah.
That makes you really question, especially at Floyd's level of supposed wealth.
Yeah.
And also what I think happened is, I watched Chael Sonnen's video on this yesterday talking about it.
That's
I
funny.
think he's a pretty valid source here.
He's funny.
He talks about how
I've never heard of that guy.
He's a
he's a
fighter.
former UFC. He was like the
Okay.
heel, but he competed
fought
for a
Anderson
title.
Silva.
Yeah, he darn near beat Anderson Silva in his prime. Anyway, he's a commentator, personality, and he said his whole thing has always been Mayweather didn't make as much money as he claims, because Mayweather, like Grant Cardone, all these guys know they're great marketers. They
Yeah.
put up this position of how wealthy they are.
Promoters, the
They-
team.
And
there's so
part of
much
Mayweather's allure was this idea that he can make $100 million in a single night. And that was kind of why you paid attention. What if you found out he only made 25?
Yeah.
Still substantial amount of money, but it makes it easier to justify. Oh, how does Floyd go broke? He had made 500 million in his career. Well, what if I told you he only made 175?
How much did he make?
I don't know for sure.
Oh.
But my point is
How much
that
do you think he made?
he's been the one reporting. He's the source.
His
Yeah.
odd numbers.
And no one's really validated, because no one's incentivized
one
to validate
cares.
him being wrong.
Yeah.
How much has he made? Well, I don't know. Between the Tyson fight and the Pacquiao fight coming up, he could make 50 between two.
That's
He had
what
a few
That's
big
what I think
paydays.
about these OnlyFans girls when they say they make
Yes.
so much. I'm like, there ain't no way.
Yeah, OnlyFans could easily pump them full of money to show the dashboard is accurate. The dashboard shows
Yeah, it helps
10 million.
OnlyFans.
It helps them out. So they're incentivized to make
Yeah.
the girls look like they make a bunch of money.
Got it.
Or it's a way to money launder. You could have someone big whale that sends
Yeah.
you a bunch of money.
Do you get afraid of like poking people like Mayweather for your like safety?
Well,
I've
you've
never
been
been
sued.
worried.
You know what's so funny? We were talking about this. He's like, I forget who it was, but I was like, Spencer's been sued more than me. Like, people think I'm over here getting sued all the time. This fool's getting sued way more than
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I've been sued 4 different times.
Yeah.
So you're not.
I
afraid
don't
of
fear.
that?
No, the people you fear are actually the people with something to lose. Like, I'm just the 50th guy talking about Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
But when you go at the guy that makes $1 million a year, but doesn't have much media on them. Like Derek Moneyberg, the guy who if you follow my channel, you've probably come across this. I've made a handful of videos on it. That's the guy you worry about because not many people talk about him, and you can cause actual damage to the business if you expose wrongdoing or something negative about his business.
Yeah, you're just getting Floyd more attention.
Yeah, so those I've actually kind of altered my there's some guys I probably didn't make videos about because the source, hey, this guy screwed people, and by the way, he's litigious. I'm like, that's a good way for me not to make a video because I don't really benefit. Like, sure, I might make $500 on a video from AdSense, but that's not worth a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You know?
So he hasn't sued you yet, Mayweather.
Who's that? No. Plus I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just reporting. Where it gets really risky is if you're exposing something the word exposing something that's not public.
Yeah.
I've never made videos personal. I never talk about people's personal life if I try not to the best I can. Like if they're getting divorced, avoid that because that's where you get the negative pushback. Or I really try to avoid some really damaging claims that I don't have anything to back it.
Yeah.
So I certainly don't call someone a fraudster if there's nothing to go on.
What are your thoughts on the PBD scam that happened?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. I don't know much about it. I actually don't watch any videos that are involving scam or expose, so I'm kind of out of touch here. To my knowledge, he promoted Goliath Ventures. I think the best criticism for PBD is, bro, you got to be better. You don't deserve a lawsuit. You're not going to lose money. You didn't commit fraud in any way. But come on, man. When someone sent me the major source, this guy, Danny, sent me the Goliath Ventures a year ago. And I was like, within 18 seconds, I'm like, this is the most obvious fraud of all time. It's not even an interest. I wasn't interested in the video because it was such a obvious scam.
Yeah.
So then when I found out that PBD promoted it as a main sponsor at an event, I thought that was a bad look.
Yeah.
Similar to FTX, I think it is very fair that you could take a major reputational hit. However, also similar to FTX, when people were like, they should get sued or they should go to prison or this is all, they're responsible for losses. PBD is not responsible for losses if people invested in any way, even if they went through his, if they found him through his event. However, I think it's very fair criticism to say, bro, you got to be better because he is a very savvy investor, business. You got to know better. And maybe it wasn't him. Maybe he's got a team that did the vetting. But look, this wasn't some small sponsor that gave you 20 grand to be at the back of the room. This was, I think, the premier sponsor.
It's like $1 million, right?
You deserve it, or you owe your audience a level of due diligence that it doesn't seem like he applied. And so I think a lot of the criticism is fair.
Well,
being thrown at him.
I think too, this is the hard part about because it was like a Ponzi scheme or whatever.
It was the most obvious one in the world.
But like
it was bad. Come on, man. Don't touch crypto, guys. Just don't touch these crypto companies.
So
I didn't know it was crypto.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was like, you invest with me and we invest in this crypto, BlockFi, DeFi, all the buzzwords. Come on, 18% a year returns.
Well,
too obvious.
Well, like even thinking about like Bernie Madoff and stuff like that, it's like, because when I heard him talking about it, he was saying like, we vetted multiple people who've invested and they're getting their payouts. And it's like, that is the hard part.
That is not vetting though.
No, I know. But like everyone who invested with Bernie Madoff got payouts for however many years. Like it was a long time that it was like functioning.
Well, here's a question for you. How much vetting should an investor, an influencer or a guy in his shoes, FTX, you're holding an event, whatever it is, what's the level of vetting you should do on the company? And how much do you think is appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to know if the company's legit or not.
It's really tough though, because like the FTX, all of our friends, we have a lot of mutual friends that got involved in that.
How would go down?
They actually did a lot of vetting, and this is why I defended them. They hired attorneys that did vetting on the company, which is why they were comfortable promoting it. You know, if PBD did vetting in the sense that he, I don't know, spent hours and hours with attorneys and they evaluated it, and he leaned on these attorneys that were quote unquote experts in the field. That level of due diligence is pretty appropriate. I just think with that specifically, I think there should have been a little bit.
Do you think PBD should pay the $1 million back?
Well, here's what's unknown, I think, by a lot of people, similar to FTX. Bro, give your money back. It's my understanding that in bankruptcy, they have the opportunity to then come after the money you made. And so I think the reason why the FTX guys didn't give the money back initially is they can come what's called clawback. So you don't want to give the money today because if they come claw back, you will then have to double dip. If you gave the money today, they'll come back for it later. That's what the attorneys advise. So do I think he should give it back? No, because he delivered a service. However, I think it would be the right thing to do given how wealthy he is. This is more of a moral question, an ethics question. He is very wealthy. It would be a good look to give the money back, but he does not. He should not have to, nor should he be, or excuse me, it's not like is not being forced to do it. I think it would only be off goodwill.
This is another thing you just brought up that I was thinking of too. Like, we've been mainly talking about people making investments, and I think it's important to also mention the difference between an investment and providing a service.
Yes.
Because, I've had people who are like, oh, well, you sell courses and coaching, and it's like, okay, that's a service. Like, did we execute on the service that we agreed upon, right? Did we give you the coaching? Did we give you the courses? Did we, do the events we said we were going to do, whatever, right? And if we did those things and you didn't have success, like,
or if you didn't enjoy them,
whatever it is, right? But like, I think people lump in investments and services as part of the same thing. And they're like, well, I invested in this thing. It's like, legally speaking, you bought a service. You did not invest in a thing. An investment is actually an asset class that you would invest in, like we're talking about, whether it's a crypto, a stock, a real estate, whatever.
Mhm.
Buying a service is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And I think people don't really understand that.
That got talked about way too much in the fake guru era. That I received a lot of this inbound messaging of like, hey man, I bought a course and it wasn't good. He's a scammer. I'm like, well, that's actually not the definition of scam. You thought you could buy the course and he would give you the easy 1, 2, 3 ticket to 10 grand a month or 100 grand a month. And you found out that, oh, you actually have to apply something. You actually got to work afterwards. I can't help you there as long as he delivered what was promised. And that's why I've always focused on the marketing, because if I market myself as I've made $10 million on YouTube, I haven't. But if I'm selling a course on that and you buy into my course believing that I have this level of expertise and I've had this success, that to me is a form of fraud and a scam.
Yeah.
But if I tell you straight up, I'm going to deliver exactly how I view YouTube, you're going to have 18 modules and this is what it's going to be, and you find out that maybe YouTube wasn't as easy as you thought, or maybe the course wasn't as good as you thought, whatever it is, that's not a scam.
Yeah.
And I've tried to push back on that a little bit.
But people think that.
Yeah. There's a big contingency of people out there that I also think there's a large group that just wants everything to be a scam.
Do you think Logan Paul's a scammer?
Oh man, that's a great question. It's tough. I'm so biased because he was my favorite creator for a long time. So I'm like very biased here. I think he's an example of someone that is not delivering on what was promised. So I think by definition, you can call him a scammer.
Oh, wow.
I think he also used his influence to raise a lot of money or sell services that he could never deliver on. And I think a guy like Logan doesn't put the investors first. So if you want to label him a scammer or whatever, I think that's totally valid. I think what happens with him is something that you guys have been around the space enough to know the level of opportunity that these guys have is insane. And I think what happened is he probably had the best intentions, and there goes back to the intentions, probably the best intentions with this NFT crap that he did, that of course has been the focus of the CoffeeZilla issue. However, I think what happened is he had the best intentions, and then he got this opportunity to do Prime and Lunchly and WWE. And all of a sudden making $1 million on NFTs, were like, he put it on the back burner. And this is why I don't think he treated his investors well.
Yeah.
But I can't necessarily argue. I've never been offered $10 million to wrestle, or potentially $1 billion with Prime. That like, I understand where he's coming from, that he just put it on the back burner and it didn't get his full attention. The reason why I don't like what happened with him is it goes to the morals and ethics, which is if I was in his position, I would have paid the investors back and just said, hey guys, I'm going to give you back in full plus maybe 10% or something. It's like $1.5 million. He's going to spend that on the CoffeeZilla lawsuit. He literally could have gone to CoffeeZilla and said, CoffeeZilla, you were right. If he came out and said, you're the good guy here, not in those words, but you're the good guy, you caught me, I handled this incorrectly. You know what? We're going to work together. You help me give back the investor money. It would have cost him $1 million. But the problem is Logan's not that type of dude. Yeah. He sees it as his money. He believes he was wronged. He believes he was wronged by these guys, the real scammers, the people he partnered with. Instead, he could have had the best PR, the best like full circle, the movie. You're the scammer at the beginning of the movie, and at the end, you finally come full circle to say, you know what, I'm wrong. I'm gonna make this right. And he missed it. He missed the best PR opportunity in the world. And then he's suing CoffeeZilla, and it's become a whole thing. This just made look. Yeah, I talked to him. He was one of the first person I texted when I won the anti-slap with my case, because I know he's kind of going through something similar. He
won the what?
So the anti-slap motion here in Nevada is one of roughly 18 states that has a special motion to dismiss. For, let's call myself a journalist or reporter, it's very important because this motion allows you to recoup attorney's fees. It protects journalists. The purpose, anti-slap, is SLAPP, strategic litigation against public participation. Its purpose is to defend journalists, because imagine you're a journalist and you want to expose a bad guy, a business that's committing fraud. Well, what is often the case, you could just sue a journalist, especially if they're independent, and they're screwed. I've spent probably $480,000 As you can imagine, that's a lot of money to me. That
On
is
legal fees.
That is just on legal fees. Yeah, sorry, just on legal fees. That is
So
to a
why do you do it?
He
then?
told me that. I go, bro, you spent way more money on lawyers than me.
I know.
I've paid for law school 3 times over. Well, guess what? I am incredibly privileged, but there's been times where I was eating rice for lunch and dinner. Yeah,
Why
life
do you
was
do it,
pretty
though?
hard.
Just for the love of the game.
Well, well, here's the problem with litigation. There's no exit button.
Yeah.
I reached out a couple times offering to settle.
Yeah.
Just give me what I'm owed, and like we'll settle this. Now he should have done it, but he chose not to. Regardless, there's no exit button. This is what makes litigation so damaging because you have to hire an attorney, and then you have to participate in the system, and there's no way out.
You can't get out of it.
No,
If somebody
here's
sues you have to deal with it.
here's no. So that's a great question. Something I learned recently.
Yeah.
Because as I'm going to law school, I was
I've
like,
been sued and I handled it myself.
I got sued recently, and I was like, oh, I'll just handle it myself. Well, in many courts, probably most, if an LLC is sued, you can't self-represent an LLC.
Oh, that sucks.
So my personally sued, I could represent myself. However, I was sued.
You in
but-
chat.
Well,
yeah.
I got sued, and what I did is I reached out to the other person and I just settled.
It
Well,
takes
no,
two
no,
people
you
to
didn't
settle.
get sued though. You probably got a demand letter.
I got sued.
Did you actually have a complaint filed in court and you were served?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were
I
sued.
walked into my office. I was like,
And
"Who
served
the fuck
you."
are I almost shot him, and then
That's one way to- that's one way to
He
start a
walked
complaint.
into the office. I was like, bro, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then what happened was I just called them and settled it.
Well, that's the best
Yeah.
case scenario.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a wealthy guy who wants to punish you, that is not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
they're not
and so-
doing it to settle. They're
Yeah,
doing
he
it
was
to
not
just-
doing this to settle. He had a bone to pick, and he legitimately thinks
So
he was
why
wrong.
do you do it? Why do you do it?
Well, once you're sued, you have to then make enough money to pay your legal bills. So then it became this circle of like, and I got sued twice earlier this year, and I'm just like, man, I make money to pay the lawsuit, then I get sued.
He's like,
It's this,
"At the end of the year, I'll be able to get
yeah,
it."
it's this ugly circle. Of
My
like,
business is not profitable
Yeah.
at all.
no, this is one of the worst business models. And what's tough about being around a guy like you is you when we played golf a couple years ago and you gave me really good advice, like, bro, you need something to sell and you need to build a content for that audience. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great business model. This is not a great one. CoffeeZilla is feeling this right now. He would not share with me how much he spent, but I can tell you without a doubt, he is spending an amount of money that is very harmful to him. And I feel legitimately bad because
Didn't
I
he
think
raise money for it?
I don't think so.
I
Not
thought
for
he
his
did. He was
lawsuit.
like selling shirts or something.
Well, okay, sold shirts, but he still had to sell a product.
Yeah,
And you're not making, I mean, you're still making only X amount per shirt, you know.
Yeah.
but if he wins, will he get?
He doesn't
money
have
back?
he doesn't have the anti-slap in Texas. And so I won the anti-slap.
The problem with winning too is collecting.
Yes.
You can win. It doesn't mean
It's just a piece of
But,
paper.
but they have money.
In my
It
case,
doesn't matter.
yeah.
Why does it matter if Logan Paul?
I'll
let's
give
just
you
say
an example.
hypothetically,
I'll give you an example.
To collect on a judgment still is like it's like the next stage of dealing with it.
Some say it's even the harder stage.
Yeah.
So a judgment is just a piece of paper. If
Yeah.
I had a judgment against you that says you owe me $30 million, if you don't have it, I'm not collecting.
Yeah.
So I know someone, Vegas Dave is a fake guru fraudster. I know someone.
forgot about that. Guy.
Yeah, I know someone who won.
That guy's been around a
I've
long
become
time.
friends
Yeah,
with.
he's OG.
I've become friends with the guy who won the judgment against him recently in Mexico.
For how
$30
much?
million judgment
Wait,
Oh,
in Mexico?
in Mexico. So he was
Judgment in Mexico.
That's a good
he
plan.
was no. Oh, sorry. I'm totally wrong about that. He won the judgment in Nevada. It was about properties located in Mexico.
Oh,
So
okay,
there's three.
okay.
The Vegas Dave or whatever. He was managing the properties. Long story short, he
knows
wins
real
30.
estate.
He has a judgment against Vegas Dave for $30 million, and Dave is playing this game of moving money around, and he's had to then hire experts to go after his crypto portfolio to
Yeah.
find out where the money's moving. He's in contempt of court. So the end goal is if you can prove contempt of court, that you could possibly face jail time. But regardless, collecting on a judgment might be the challenge part. So this whole
That's
thing
what I
is
was
like
telling you
but
too.
why?
Yeah.
I'm like, do you think you're gonna?
he
collect?
has assets. He sued me with his personal name and a cash flowing business, so you can seize assets. Thankfully, with real estate, it's tough because if I get a judgment against you for 123 Main Street, I can't come after 246
Banana
State Street or whatever
And
because
if I
it's
throw a
different
big
LLCs.
lien on it,
Yeah, it's tough to collect. Now,
Yeah.
in my case, the reason why we're confident is, so back to my case. So winning the anti-slap, the reason why it was so big for me is because you win attorney's fees, theoretically. So we filed motion for fees. We're fully briefed, waiting for the judgment. We're asking for $664,000. Yep.
Spencer's gonna
Bro, he's about to get
yeah,
paid, bro.
well,
full
hold
cycle.
on. He may not, but
Yeah.
he's gonna get this is like his first business exit.
Yeah.
Yes. He could say, bro, I've successfully exited.
Selling courses
Yes,
on
on
how to get sued and win.
Yeah. So I'm going to
no money for 5 years and then finally cash out.
It-
You're like a fund.
Who sued you?
this guy Derek Moneyberg.
What does he do?
He sells courses on being wealthy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But-
I don't label him a fake guru because I think I think there's enough proof. He seems to be a pretty good investor, but he I don't know is necessarily that certain expert in certain areas. Like he made a lot of money on being a dating coach,
Nice.
and let's just say he spends some of his business money on girlfriends.
Nice.
How do I know that, Spencer? Oh, well, because I have great sources.
So but what does that have to do with you getting sued?
Have you
Oh,
talked
no,
to
no,
Nick
no.
Shirley? Do you know him?
I've never talked to him. No,
Oh, okay. Because you guys are kind of in like the same boat.
no, I've never.
Well,
met him.
let's talk about where you're headed because yeah, I remember a couple of years ago we were just talking about it and I was like, look, dude, like the whole gotcha audience, they ain't never gonna buy anything from you. They're literally the most skeptical audience.
The
in
one
the
thing
world.
I'll push back a little bit, I think you have a belief system on the audience. I actually have a pretty awesome audience. I do attract a certain portion of the audience is the everyone's a scammer, Alex Hormozy's a scammer, that type. And they certainly come to
Trump's
kind of this,
scammer.
yeah, this
Joe
circle of
Biden's
the
a
internet, of
scammer.
course. But I do attract a lot of awesome people. One example is I was emailing an attorney in LA. Hey, I want to talk about this case. I saw you're representing the plaintiff. Just curious what happened. And he emailed back, oh, great. Here's what happened. And then 2 seconds later, he then emailed, oh, wow. I just looked you up. I realized that I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel. He's a
Hell
pretty
yeah.
prominent attorney with
Yeah.
celebrity clients. Anyway, my point is that it probably follows a similar distribution. Only 1% of the population is the top 1%. So probably 1% of my population. Anyway,
It's a buyer.
yeah, or to your point about buying, I can attract buyers too. It's just that's not my brand. That's not why people interact with my
Yeah.
content. I'm not an expert on some business service or some business product. It's not the
I
brand.
gave him an idea a couple of years ago. I just remembered it. I called it Cornelia Certified.
Ooh.
And I was like, because people trust you as a guy who's like dug into the stuff, you could go pay or get people to pay you to like certify, different businesses.
It's an
and
interesting
things.
idea, but it wouldn't
like Rotten
work.
Tomatoes.
It wouldn't work. Yeah, it wouldn't work because there'd be so much liability on me. If I say someone's legitimate, then
And then they're not.
I'm tied to their. Imagine, okay, you're legitimate in house flipping, but what happens if you do something in your personal life that gets you arrested for a pretty ugly crime?
Yeah.
And I legitimized you, people then that could hurt your brand. Or Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez was a legitimate business owner. He actually built some really successful businesses. He was legitimate for a while until he wasn't.
Well, I would say
It's-
he's still legitimate. He just lost.
Well, also,
Well,
too,
people will then look at your brand as like, bro, you certified this guy. I invested in his fund
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
I get
certified him on this
Do
area.
people pay you for legal advice? Is that?
Well, that's the goal by going to law school. Is I want to.
But do you?
that's
need
going to
that?
be his new product.
But
That's
He's
my
gonna be a
product
lawyer.
or
But do you
service.
need to go to law school for
100%. Absolutely.
You
It's
can't give
illegal.
legal advice.
Yeah, it's illegal.
I'll let you out for legal.
No,
advice.
no,
I'll
it's
be like,
illegal.
bro,
Oh, no, no,
next
it's
time
very
I get sued,
illegal.
I'm calling you for sure. Be like, bro, like
That
what
is
should I do?
illegal. No,
Spencer's
can't do
like,
it.
I go to law school in a week.
Yeah.
No, so Ryan's been influential on me on this part, but also being around you guys that you've had a much healthier relationship with content than I have.
Yeah.
Like you've had a much more enjoyable experience being an influencer, whereas mine has been mired with stress, living with roommates, like
Yeah.
credit card debt. This has not been a fun time for me.
Until you
And
get this 600K.
yeah,
Finally, baby.
yeah, and finally having the ability to sell something as opposed to relying on sponsors and AdSense,
Yeah.
which look, I live a good life. If you remove the legal bills,
Lawsuits.
I'm-
I'm living.
Yeah.
good.
like so far this year,
If you
look, so
remove
far this
all
year,
the headache, I'm
I've generated
chilling.
like 140 grand, and we're in July so far this year. Like this is a decent. Now I've had a lot of expenses. Unfortunately, I've paid like 80, 90K in legal fees so far this year. So unfortunately, I'm making like 5K net, which is not great
Yeah.
to me.
You got a job, yeah.
Yeah. But this is a good career if you remove the legal fees aspect of it. So anyway, regardless,
But I don't know that ever is going to go.
Yeah.
it might not. It might not. So going to law school to me is like finally the big upside where I can treat this as a funnel, which I know you do a good job at, where I can still make the videos I want to make. And if it gets 30,000 views, that's no longer a failure. Right now it's a failure because I rely on views.
Yeah.
Whereas that's 30,000 potential leads. And legal has such big upside
Yeah.
that you get one case like me, that's $500,000, or you get
Like me, I need
yeah,
me.
You're like
yeah,
the
yeah.
client
I need
in
me
Morgan, bro.
one of me a year.
But
But
also,
also,
you going to represent yourself at that point?
yeah, probably.
We had
Yeah.
Morgan and Morgan just on.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's a
on Morgan.
verified
That
billionaire.
guy's a baller,
Yeah.
bro. That guy is super.
listen to him
He's
talking
di-
about law was
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
And I think it'd be really fun to build what I would consider an actual business. I have an LLC. My media company is a business, but I mean a real business with funnel. I'd love to have attorneys working for
How
me.
does law school work exactly? Like
3 years.
How much are you going to go into debt more?
Well, as of right, I don't know where I'm going yet. I'm gonna go to High Point as of right now. High Point, North Carolina. It'd be 60 grand for 3 years because I got a scholarship that pays 30 a year. So 20 a year in tuition times 3 years is 60.
How much would it have been? So it would have been 50 a year?
50 a year in tuition alone. But most people have to take out a loan for cost of living.
Yeah.
Which I anticipate being able to do YouTube enough to pay for my living. I'm waitlisted at UNLV. Fingers crossed I get into UNLV. As of right now, I don't anticipate getting in. So I'm very likely moving in the next month.
Wow.
So hopefully it goes well and I get into UNLV. If not, I'm at High Point in North Carolina.
Damn.
So UNLV would be about 100 grand in tuition. They're 35 a year.
A year.
But you'd be able to stay home. And
I'd be able to stay here, and I anticipate making one video a month, one sponsor, 2 to 3 grand a month at a minimum.
Yeah.
Of that will cover my cost of living, 2 to 3 grand a month.
So after 3 years, you're just a lawyer. You're done.
You would then have to pass the bar.
well, no,
which
he's
not
gonna
everyone
keep
does.
being a YouTuber, and
Yeah.
that'll get him leads.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah,
But I'm just
I
saying
hopefully
for the lawyer
still
thing.
doing the same thing I'm doing now,
Yeah.
which is still
Can't you
generating
just
good
partner
views.
with a lawyer right now?
No, you can't take a referral.
Yes, you can.
In Arizona, you can.
Yeah. Can you
Tech-
move to
and I think we
Arizona?
talked about this.
Yes, you can.
I've thought about this, but it's also these are all like, oh, you can play this game over here. I want to be a lawyer because I'm ready to transition to the next phase of my life of being a husband and having a real relationship and family. And YouTube is not stable to me, especially with these lawsuits.
Heck
Whereas being a lawyer is a stable career in itself.
Yeah.
YouTube will become a part-time thing, which is what I've
YouTube's
wanted for a
more
while.
Marketing. It's not even.
Yes.
It's just.
Yes.
It's marketing.
So you're
Bingo.
gonna be a husband soon.
No, not anytime soon. But
Say.
But like my day to day is not fun at all. I sit around like most of my days I'm actually looking for topics, which is scrolling social media, which I don't enjoy. And I don't make enough to have this
Yeah,
team
just-
around me. And so
research.
I,
This is how I'm working. Shut up.
it's crazy. Like I'll be like this. The last video I made it perform pretty well, but I was scrolling X for 2 hours, and then I came across some clips about athletes talking about going broke after making 50 million. But it takes hours scrolling social media, which
Yeah.
this is not a life I want forever. I want to be a lawyer, and then at night maybe I make one video a week or 2 videos a month, and that's
Yeah.
my marketing funnle
Yeah.
for being a lawyer. And you can make like Attorney Tom, who I know you may not be a fan of because he's representing the plaintiff suing you, but he built up
Dude,
enough.
F that guy. I'm sorry, Tom.
He built up enough of an audience. He did YouTube for so long. He has so many referrals coming in that
Oh, yeah.
he's running a firm. Last I spoke with him, has 30 attorneys under him. He no longer has to make content, which would be I like content, but I've never loved this space of like I'm not the scam exposed guy. And if you watch me long enough, you can probably pick up on that because I'm always this guy that's like I kind of defend the business
you're pretty
owners.
Objective.
Yeah, and it doesn't work for this space because I think that to thrive in this space, you
Yeah.
really need to be
negative.
You kind of do. You need to. The influencer is always the bad guy, and so I don't know how long I can last being the guy that's like actually, like with Cardone, I kind of defend him in many ways because he's not the bad guy, and it doesn't get all the views.
There was like this fat white dude that used to make all these scam videos. Do you remember who he was? I forgot it. It was on YouTube. He always had like fire in his thumbnails. It was like CoffeeZilla U and then this other guy. I completely forgot about him, but I wonder what happened to him.
It's not a viable business model for a while. It's also I don't like how people interact with the brand. Meaning, here's what gets lost when you say like, oh, the audience is this or that. No, it's the same people. A lot of people who follow me probably follow you.
Yeah.
But when they interact with you, they are buyers. When they interact with me, they are probably eating some popcorn and like, I want to see this guy go down. It's the same. So I'll give you an idea. I really enjoy watching street fight videos. Okay, that's my guilty pleasure. I find it hilarious because I like combat sports.
Brian likes watching bums fight.
But
I
but
like-
I interact with that. I'm a different viewer.
Bum fights.
I watch that, but I also occasionally watch Alex Hormozy.
Yeah.
I'm the same person, but I interact with, I'm not going to buy a course from if the fight video is like, oh, by the way, I teach how to make money on YouTube. Like, you're not buying from that guy. But if Hormozy has a course on how to win on YouTube, I'm going to buy from him. So it's the same audience.
Yeah.
And so what the real question is, how do they interact with your brand? And this is even more prominent when you go through, I noticed Andrew Tate is the best example of this, which is how do people interact with you when you're in controversy?
Yeah.
Some people, their brand gets taken down to nothing because the only value you provided was entertainment. But some people uplift you, or maybe they teach you how to be a better Christian, a better husband, a better father. And it may be, okay, your business had a loss. Brandon Turner had a loss. A lot of people will still ride with him because they've made money and they've learned so much with him.
Yeah.
But whereas if you found out that I raised money from if I raised money from you guys and I lost your money, that might literally throw off my entire brand because you don't interact with my brand to better yourself. You're interacting with my brand because hopefully I'm entertaining, or I do my best to kind of teach you about law in my videos, but like realistically, you're watching me because you want to see someone get criticized. More or less.
Stephen A.
You're fine. Yeah.
So yes.
That's a great example.
Yep.
Yeah, you're like,
You're not buying anything from CNA.
Approach him and
You're not buying anything from him.
no.
Yeah.
But you
But
might
like
buy,
watching
But he might be
like,
president, so
he gets audience. Yeah, exactly. So I think when I can transition to something else, I can start transitioning the brand into a brand I'm more aligned with that I want. Like when you come to, I might get less views, but when you come to me, you're getting the law perspective. I might call the guy a scammer, but I'm not going to call Tai Lopez a fraudster if the lawsuit isn't accurate.
Yeah.
If hopefully that makes sense. Whereas you can get all the views calling these guys scammers.
Yeah. Can we hear your dating stuff? That was interesting.
I started dating a girl. And it's been going much better than I anticipated.
Nice.
And I think it's been really healthy for me. I'm totally cool being like vulnerable and talk about this stuff because I think it's a lot. You've had some, get a divorce attorney. Maybe I'll become a divorce attorney. That way I can better prepare for marriage in America. You've had red pill guys on, and I think they've been really damaging to a lot of guys. And you did a good job. You guys did a good job. Now Michael Sartain's not red pill, by the way. I think he's actually one of the healthier ones.
I don't know any of this crap.
But I think
there's a weirdo, to be honest. But
there's so much negative influence and advice. And I think when you meet, and I know you guys could probably jump on this, but like when you are in a healthy relationship, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
They uplift you. Like the girl I'm with now, like uplifts me. She's successful on her own. I love independent women, like a girl who can make money. So much talk now is she's got to be a trad wife and cook and clean and all this. I'm like, do you really want that? That sounds like a servant.
Yeah.
I want a girl who can go earn her own. Now maybe I can provide enough for
my wife cleans all day.
But you would, that's not why you're with her. And if she all of a sudden if you guys got rich enough where you could hire a cleaner, you're not gonna be like, I'm gonna divorce you because you're no longer
a cleaner. She just we have cleaners. She just likes to clean. It's like old school Mexican.
But you inspire me. We talked about it, so we don't have to hammer on it, but this idea that like as you get older, you have your own traumas built up, and it hit me deep when I listened to that on your podcast because I realized at 35 years old, I've had plenty of dating experience, but I have my own beliefs about what a woman in a relationship should look like or talk like or feel like. And I think a lot of that is really dumb because then you meet a girl and you have great chemistry and it kind of all goes to the side.
So give us more context. So you used to have, like, give us your old thoughts.
I haven't been in the dating market. I've had some partners, but it's all been situationships.
Okay.
And over the past many years. But I went through a phase of cold approach, which I know you haven't gone through, but you've probably heard about. You learn how to pick up women in bars and whatnot, and I had some success there. And that was like a big part of my life in my 20s, but that's so far removed. That was getting laid is the goal. So I certainly had that, but I kind of cringe about that past because I think a lot of guys in that space, and I'll point the finger at me too, is I think there's like a hole missing and that you're looking to fulfill it through getting laid.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably sense that, you guys as two fulfilled married men, you're Christian and all this.
And I've done that before. So yeah.
So you can see the flaws. And these guys are like the bravado. Like, I go out and sleep with these women. These girls are all hoes and all this. So the way they talk about women is so gross because you can't like look at a woman. If you really love a woman in your life, you don't interact with that content because it doesn't resonate with you because I don't have that same experience.
Bro, that's what I was trying to. You're just better. You speak better than I do, but that's the feeling I was having when we had that guy on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, women this, OnlyFans that, blah blah blah," and then his content is like, "Go sleep with the woman, as soon as possible." But I'm a Christian, and I'm like, what? I'm like, this guy's so weird. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I actually waited with this girl for much longer than normal. Usually my rule was like, if I hadn't slept with a girl by like the third date, it's probably a good sign that it's not going to work out. But this one lasted way longer. And you know what's funny is I actually,
where'd you get this math from?
If we're objectively looking at your track record, if you do sleep with her by the third date, it's for sure not working out.
There are so many flaws with that world, and I'm totally open to be criticizing because I understand a lot of the red pill. I think it's good to learn some of like the pitfalls of, if you're a young man, there are a lot of pitfalls with the dating world and you can get taken advantage of.
Oh yeah.
But if you stay in that world for too long and you watch Fresh and Fit for too long, that shit is hella toxic.
Oh, bro, yeah. I feel
Well,
like it's so obvious.
And the goal should be marriage. Like, we've lost so much of this. The goal should be, and I know there's flaws with the monogamy and all this and marriages and divorces and all this, but the goal should be to find a partner. That's how you build a family. That should be the goal, because that's the most beautiful thing in this world.
Can you give context? So you said you were looking for things before.
Yeah.
And then your new girl didn't match them? Or
Well, I
something
thought
like
it
that?
was smart to come up with a list of like, let me actually think through, what do I look for in a woman? Because if you're just blindly going out into the dating market, you might not actually doing it successfully. So I had this idea of my list of what I look for, high on agreeableness, low on this, low on that, no tattoos, this, whatever. And then, I've had a few experiences, this one being one of them, where you meet a girl and the chemistry's so great that you find there's what's called stated preferences versus revealed preferences. Are you aware of this?
No.
Yeah. What you
Okay,
think
so
you-
stated preferences are what you would list on, I need a girl that's 5'3", that's independent, that cooks and cleans. Those are stated preferences, but what revealed preferences are, when you actually date the girl, what are you actually attracted to?
Yeah.
Does that matter?
Are
Or
they
is
funny?
it the chemistry, or does she make you laugh? Or on a Saturday night, are you guys wanting to go to the theater or the club? Like, that's the stuff that actually matters. And so I had stated preferences, and then when I met her, actually showed her the list. I was like, by the way, like, do you meet any of those? She's like, I don't meet any of those.
Oh,
And sure enough, we've been inseparable since. So it's just kind of funny that it's brought the revealed preferences to light, which I think a lot of this dating advice on the internet is stated preferences and from a toxic lens.
100%.
Yeah.
But the revealed is what actually matters.
So this is the funniest thing I've learned from having everyone on, and then like giving advice to single guys.
Yeah.
Because we had Brian Lubin on recently.
Yeah.
And I had him on like 2 years ago, and I was basically like, bro, you know nothing about women the way you think you do. And then like we went into it, and then we had him on, a couple months ago. He's like, bro, there's my new fiance, and like,
Beautiful.
and he's like, dude, everything you said was like, I just never saw it. Like, I don't know why I never saw it. And I think with all the red pill guys, they I think pretty deeply about a lot of these issues, whether it's lawsuits or investing or anything. Here's the issue with the red pill guys is you're a dating relationship expert, but you yourself aren't married or have a successful marriage, right? So
I said
that's the
that.
definition of a fake.
I did say that. I felt bad when I said that.
Yeah, but like that's the definition of a fake gamer.
How good are you at relationships?
You're terrible.
Yeah.
Like you haven't.
You're dating a cocktail waitress.
Yeah, like, but this is the inherent problem with it, is because if you did get married, you're out of the game now.
Yeah.
So how do you know what these guys are going through? Like, that's the criticism of me. I'm like, your advice is stupid. Like, well, Ryan, you haven't had a date in 15 years. Like, you don't get it. Things have changed. And then it's like, all right, I guess, sure, I'm not actively in the game, but I have what you want,
Yeah.
And so that's the inherent tug, because should a guy who's got a healthy, successful marriage give advice to these guys? I think so. I think they're more credible than the guy who's actively in the game.
Here's what gets
45 years old, still unmarried, with kids, going after girl after girl after girl, and clearly unhappy, clearly, well, not even clearly, but they may not even realize, like, they're just revealing their nature.
Yeah.
Here's what gets lost in social media advice, which I generally hate this idea of advice. You can provide great advice for one person. There was time in my life where I wanted advice on how to go attract a hot chick at the bar.
Yeah.
That is not, but you would probably try to give advice. Like, here's what you should look for. That's not good advice. I think Sartain fills a role very well in his lane, but if I were to want to get married, I would come to you. And my questions would be, what characteristics of your wife do you find valuable, and what things does she provide that you didn't expect? Those are good questions to ask, because then that'll better, because I'm interested in marriage. I'm on that path. I'm not on the path of club girl. And also, these podcasts are located in Miami, Vegas. If you ever been to Miami,
said that, bro.
when you go to Brickell, the first time I went to Brickell, I said, you know what? I understand Fresh and Fit. The first time I went in there, I was like, I'll give them some credit. These girls are fine as hell. There's so much money and flash, and I'm like, I get it. But then you go to like a rural Houston, Texas. These girls aren't asking you how much money you make. They don't
That
looking
was
for.
Brian's point. He's like, these girls are not like that.
Most girls aren't that way.
points, I just
If
think
you
she
go
made
if you go to church, the girl is not this one of these 304 hoe that they call it. It's so ridiculous.
304.
304 is like a version of
Miami.
hoe.
Okay.
No. 304 is kind of like hoe backwards. If you
Oh, is it?
yeah, like 304 is if you do it.
I thought it was Miami.
No,
area code or
305
something.
is 305 is
Yeah,
Miami.
305 is a
Okay.
typical, yeah.
I thought they
No.
called them that.
But regardless,
The
I
305s
think
Miami
I
girls.
now have more vitriol towards that space because
Yeah.
I now am in a healthy relationship that is the kind of the first time in either a long time or forever.
Yeah.
As sad as it is at 35, but I was into that space, into that world for a long time, and I've just realized all the flaws. And I think a lot of young men would be happier if they stopped following that advice. I think
Yeah.
that space is actually going away. I think Fresh and Fit, you've seen them pivot to like political.
Yeah.
They're the same people. They're just going after views. I get
Yeah.
it, but they've pivoted away because I think that audience can only last for so long. That
Yeah.
messaging can only last. It's so
And you
toxic.
and you get older. It's like, bro, like,
You grow out of it.
yeah, you're
Yeah, yeah.
like
You sleep with a few
30.
girls from the club and you realize you're not happy. And then
Yeah.
you just start dating one. You're like, oh, this is way better.
Then eventually you find Jesus.
And then eventually you find Jesus.
You're like, okay, even
And then
this
you're
is
like-
You know, I've been more religious this year. In January this year, my life was falling apart. Literally, 2025 was the worst year of my life. Everything
Dang.
went wrong. Literally, and I'm not going to share everything, but everything went wrong. One of those years where you're just like, literally everything I did was wrong. And I woke up and I said, you know, I have a choice. Either the world is not providing me happiness because what's happening is not working. If I want to be happy, I have to find it from within. So I started praying. I hung out with a couple of people that are strongly devout religious, and I started praying more and started finding a relationship with Jesus, and everything has worked.
Nice.
Now, I'm not saying that's
go.
the reason, and I don't want people to. The
could be
purpose
the
wasn't to
reason.
like start praying and be like, I deserve these things, make it happen. But it's probably not coincidence.
Jesus gives peace.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
mean,
peace.
it's not that you deserve wealth or any of these things, but Jesus definitely gives peace. The things you're talking about, joy, like
Yeah.
those are a guarantee.
This has been one of those years where everything's just kind of fallen in place. Like the lawsuit with Moneyberg, it's really hard to explain, but 5 years of everything going wrong. Every step along the way, it went against me. Even the appellate court, 5 years. The appellate court, it was a slap lawsuit. With law, the beautiful thing is like there isn't that much up for interpretation. Like this was a slap lawsuit, just rule on it. And even in the appellate court, after 5 years, they said, we're not going to rule on it. It cost me another 20, 30 grand for my attorney to argue why they should rule on it. They eventually did. But that was just an example of every step, just nothing working out. And they
Dang.
finally ruled this way. But it's been a great year so far. And I
Praise God.
hope things to
And now
continue.
you're going to law school, like you have more clarity. You're dating, like
Do you go to church?
No,
that's your
not too
next
much
step.
interest in church.
Bro, you
Exact-
got to become
but-
the body of Christ, brother.
Yeah,
That's
it only
what
gets
it
better.
is.
true.
It
Yeah.
only gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If one
What
YouTube
advice would
video
you
is-
give them about church? And why don't you want to go to church?
I am not interested. It could be a long conversation that I don't want to have. Not like they
what's
did
the-
anything
what's
wrong, but
like
just
is it the hypocrites? Is it
no. I think there was so long that I found a lot I didn't like about religion,
Yeah.
which is why I stayed away.
Yeah.
And I think religion is just another thing we kind of grasp onto. Whether you want to be a fan of a certain sports team, fan of religion, I think
Yeah.
we all find meaning in different things. I'm not the biggest believer in the sense that I believe everything by the Bible. I like to believe.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. Like I like to believe in a spiritual, but like going to church is this. I feel like you're really buying in, and I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not.
So I'll tell you
interested.
my testimony.
Okay.
So I'm going to shrink this down. But when was it? 2022? 2022, 2023. I'm sitting in my house, right? I have my daughter right here. I have my son right here. I got my wife in the kitchen. I'm looking at my backyard. I got a big glass door. I see my pool. I have a paid off house. I have a Mercedes Benz. I have everything you could want. Everything. But I was literally living in hell mentally. Yeah. Like literally, I was just like, I was sitting there with all them. I'm like, should I go to work? Should I not go to work? Am I a good dad? Am I a bad person? Like, oh, I got to do this thing. Even though my business just did the best ever last month, it's probably going to fail this month. Like I had all these thoughts all the time, like all the time. And then I was like, bro, like this sucks. Like, why can't I be happy even though I have everything that I ever wanted? So I go to Ryan. I'm like, bro, this is what's happening. And he's like, bro, you got to go to church. And I was like, dog, I don't want to go to church. Like, I was like, bro, that's bad advice. Like, that's not the advice that I want to hear, just like you right now.
Mhm.
And then I was like, trying to figure it out on my own. And then I was like, dude, I want to go to church because, like, first of all, I'm like struggling with porn. I have anxiety. I'm mean. I'm a bad person. I'm not like a church person. I'm like something else. But then I got to the point where I was like, bro, I have like nothing else like I could do. Like I tried everything else, went to church, first church service, the pastor talked about how the enemy will like keep you by yourself. That's like the trick of the devil. Even like the first book of the Bible where, you know, he separates Eve, but that's the first trick, get you by yourself. And then I was like, bro, that's exactly what's happening to me right now. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to going to church 5 times. And then after 5 times, I was like, bro, now I get why the enemy wanted me by myself. Because when you're by yourself, it's like you can believe all these lies.
I wouldn't be surprised if I have a similar projection to you, that I get married. That's very fulfilling for a time.
Yep.
I get some possessions, which I haven't had that period in my life where I've had
Yeah.
good money. And then I'll do it. And then if I feel empty,
Yeah,
I
then
might
you'll
I
go
might
to
have something. Yeah, then I'll go to church. No, that's not like that's the plan.
Life thing doesn't work out. Then
Fine, now I'm in.
Yeah.
But I understand. I can relate because
Yeah.
I have I certainly don't have the material possessions that many do, and I don't have a level of wealth that most do.
But you have,
I felt that
but
like
you have wealth compared to 90%
Right.
of the world.
and I thought
the
about that.
health of like, who wouldn't want to be, who
I have a
wouldn't
lot
want
to-
your health?
yeah.
Fame.
Oh yeah, I've thought about that. Like, let's say I woke up tomorrow, I get the judgment, and Moneyberg just writes me a check for $500,000, which is what he'll owe me.
Hell yeah.
I'll have more money, and I won't be a millionaire, but I'll have more money than most. And as I've gone through this like really dark period of my life, I've learned to evaluate what actually brings happiness, and it's been really rewarding because I don't have any pursuit of money anymore. Like I know that's not you know, once
It's
you
not
hit
gonna
millionaire, 2
change-
million, it
yeah,
doesn't
it's
change
not gonna
anything.
change
It's all about internal, which is why
Yeah.
I've worked on my internal
Yeah.
and why I'm very prepared once I start getting. Anyway, to your point, to tie into what you were saying, I have had that experience where I felt alone, or I felt
Yeah.
like, oh, if I just get this, it'll solve it, but it's not
Yeah.
that case.
Yeah. Same with women, same with
yep.
porn, same with
Yeah, they're all
drugs,
temporary.
all that stuff.
Temporary, yeah,
As soon
and
as it wears off, you're
the
like,
the
what am I
feeling
doing?
of more, and I that was what eliminated this need for like some level of wealth. Is what does it solve? It doesn't. You for a day or two you feel
Yeah.
celebratory,
Yep.
but if it doesn't solve that, and some people it might solve their problems, but if it doesn't solve what's inner,
Yep.
nothing, no amount of money or women or
Yeah.
success or fame or whatever will solve that.
Yeah.
And that's been talked about ad nauseum, but I think you got to go through it and really feel it internally, and then know what it's like to be happy internally.
Yeah.
And then when the other stuff comes, you can appreciate it more.
Yeah, I think most people have to hit rock bottom for them to finally realize the stuff doesn't matter. Like, and rock bottom comes either through severe just trials and tribulations, or rock bottom of, dude, I actually hit my goal, and I feel
Nothing.
void and
Yeah.
worthless. And
Well, if you think about what it actually takes to change human behavior, it's really tough. If that's a conversation you ever want to ask yourself and think about, it takes severity
Yeah.
to ever change behavior. Because if you
on either side,
on either side, exactly. So rock bottom, the reason why it's so great is because it's so severe that it does force the behavior
Mhm.
Yeah.
change that you and eventually need if you want to advance in life.
So
Yeah.
why don't you go to church? What's the problem?
I don't really have a good answer for you.
Okay.
he's gonna come this Sunday.
I mean, I can come up with some excuse. I mean, a bit of it is time. I don't view it as a good use of my time at the moment, but
Yeah.
I have thought about going to church for sure.
Yeah.
I want to get a little more stable in certain areas of life.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go to church. I want to stop watching porn.
gotta-
I want to do this.
Yeah, they're like, I gotta do XYZ
Yeah.
before I'm ready for church.
Yeah, and I know that's that you could easily
Yeah.
criticize. I'm not saying it's a good answer.
So the way that I look at church is it's an hour. It's an hour and a half if it's crazy, which is usually not. But that's your time to go spend with God. That's what church is. That's your time. You're going to God's house, like you're visiting your mom, and that's your time to be like, hey, I appreciate you. Let me hear what the Bible says. Let me actually learn from the expert, the pastor.
Yeah.
I think any answer boils down to you're uncomfortable for some reason. That's the real answer. I'm uncomfortable for
To go
whatever
to
reason.
church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either I value what I'm currently doing over that, and I'm uncomfortable. That's
You know what
every answer.
usually happens when you're growing? You get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Agreed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Layla Hermosi saying is growth feels uncomfortable.
There
That
we
was
go.
like the number one thing I learned from her.
In the Proverbs of Layla.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, hey, bro, it's been good catching up, man. I'm glad that this year's going so great,
Yep.
and things are moving. So it's awesome to hear. For those who don't know, actually, we'll link to your profile down below. Anything else you want to plug?
Nope. Hire me as a lawyer in 3 years.
In 3
There we
years,
go.
Spencer's ready.
Or now if you want
Yeah.
Or now,
if,
maybe.
if you want to find out I'm super unethical behind the scenes, I'm willing to break the law. Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, if you like this episode, subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah.